Okay, it is 7 o'clock. We're going to open the meeting.
Work on it.
The Board of Appeals of the Town of Chelmsford will hold a public hearing on Thursday, November 2nd, 2017, at the Town Offices, 50 Billerica Road, Room 204, to hear requests for special permits, variances, and other appeals. Our first hearing will be Robert Laporte, 44 Westford Street. He's seeking a variance under 195-9, conformity to create a new buildable lot that lacks required lot width. Someone here to speak for Mr. Laporte?
Yes, my name is Greg Halladine. I'm here for Mr. Laporte, the owner of the property. We're requesting, in essence, what's a modification of a previously issued variance that was approved by this board following a hearing on August 3rd. We've given notice to all the abutters, and we've published in the paper. And I can review briefly what happened on August 3rd. If you could pull up the plan, I'll show you.
That's what I'm having trouble with.
If I could interrupt
sorry.
you just for 1 minute, sir. We are going to continue the Gonzalez application at 132 Tingsboro Road. So if anyone is here for that tonight, we're going to continue that to December 8th, I believe?
They asked for January 4th.
Oh, okay. January 4th. So if someone's there for that, we will not be hearing testimony on that application this evening. And you're welcome to attend on January 4th. That is not why everyone's here. Go ahead, sir, I apologize.
Okay. Well, without the plan, I'll just describe what happened last time we were here when this initial variance was approved. Mr. Laporte's family owns 2.55 acres on 44 Westford Street. There's a single-family home at the rear of the property, and it's been the Laporte family homestead for about 70 years. It's accessed by a 360-foot-long driveway, and there is a pending planning board proposal for a two-lot subdivision to maintain the existing home, which is on Lot 1, and then to create a new Lot 2, which would share access on that long driveway, the front portion of it. And Lot 1 in the rear would continue to have access over the 360-foot driveway with an easement over a portion of Lot 2 that it passes over. The Conservation Commission approved this. It was designed to avoid having to put a second driveway in, just to use the existing driveway. There are some wetlands where we could have perhaps put another driveway. But the two lots each have sufficient area, and in fact, they're probably larger than most of the lots in the neighborhood. The structures we propose would all have sufficient setbacks, and we believe that we met all dimensional requirements. As some of you were there last time, you may recall, the planning board had questioned, do we meet the definition of lot frontage? Because the definition of the bylaw of lot frontage says that you have to provide accessible and usable legal rights of vehicular access to the buildable area of the lot via the required frontage. So town council had reviewed it and opined that the planning board could determine that the proposed subdivision roadway would not provide legal frontage. So we came before you asking for that variance, and on August 3rd, we were before this board. There was no neighborhood opposition. The closest neighbor had indicated acceptance of the proposal, and the board found that there did exist the required hardship. The board also found that our proposal was not detrimental to the neighborhood, that it would have a positive impact on the neighborhood, and it wouldn't substantially derogate from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. With those findings, the frontage variance was issued. No appeal was taken. Now, we went back to planning board, and there is a new town council. Town changed its attorneys in the interim, and new town council reviewed the plan at the request of the planning board, and the new town council found an issue that apparently everyone had missed. It's the question of lot width. If I had a plan, I could show you, but in essence, although we have a frontage variance, the lot has to be 150 feet wide at the setback. And we're in an RB district, so 40 feet would be the front yard setback. You still have to have 150 feet at the setback. We don't have that on this plan. And new town council's letter said we could come back to you to request modification of the previously issued variance to include a waiver of this lot width requirement, so that our new lot 1, its frontage is measured along the bottom of the buildable area, where we have 190 feet wide, and it goes back maybe twice the required 40 feet.
You have 190 feet for the two lots now?
For the second lot, at the buildable area, there is 190 feet at the front of the buildable area, and it's very wide. It goes at least 80 feet into the structure. So, for the reasons I've outlined and what the board had approved back in August, we're asking just to modify the previously issued variance to include a waiver of the lot width requirement, so that our Lot 1 can be measured at the bottom of the buildable area, as opposed to going all the way down to the Westford Street area. And for all the reasons I said before, this is consistent with the neighborhood. In fact, the 7 closest abutting lots all have insufficient width at their front yard setback. We're making no changes to the plan, which was already approved. We're simply trying to correct an error that we all missed. We did not get the second issue here that I'm asking the board to modify its previously issued variance to do, to give us a waiver of the lot width requirement.
I'm hoping that they've solved this so we can.
Yeah, I can show you very quickly exactly what,
It's kind of hard to.
it's hard for, in words to describe. You have the,
Right, it would have been good if we had some pictures. That's why it's always good
That's
to
not,
bring paper
that's not the
drawings.
plan, but I will find it.
okay.
All right. Thank you, Kurt.
The application does not include.
She's going back to the August meeting to get the, she's gonna pull up the plan
She can pull up the, from the previous.
from the
meeting.
August
I see.
meeting.
Does anybody recall when the last meeting was? Do you?
I think it was the August
August
one.
third.
August 3rd.
August 3rd, thank you. Plans?
Yes.
Yay, we're there.
That's when hot links used to work.
Whew.
Yeah, I'll try to quickly just repeat what I went over. The 2.5 acre parcel is the entire perimeter here. The house is way in the back and it's serviced by this 360-foot long driveway. There are 2 lots in the proposal, each with sufficient area. Lot 1, and it has a little sliver here and it goes to the front and it has frontage on Westford and this cul-de-sac. And then the new proposed Lot 2 would be here with a proposed structure. And that would share part of the long driveway. And then the back house, which is Lot 1, would have its access over the existing driveway, no changes in the field. And it would just have an easement to go over Lot 2. It was the frontage issue because we were accessing off of our frontage and
Oh, I
going
see.
through this Lot 2. That's when town council suggested that you probably need a variance because you don't meet the definition of lot frontage, which would be vehicular access through the required frontage. That was issued by this board. After the second new town council reviewed it, he determined, you know, you don't have 150 feet of frontage going back 40 feet. I guess we were all looking at the buildable area in the back, and we have at least 190 feet, and it goes back almost 80 or 90 feet to the house. So, as was suggested by town council, if the previously issued variance could be modified to include a waiver of the lot width requirement, so that the lot width for this Lot 1 would be measured along the bottom here, which is 190 feet, as opposed to the
The true frontage, right.
So we all missed it, apparently, and the second town council found it. So we're just seeking to modify our existing variance.
I'm going to open this up to the audience to see if anyone has any comments or concerns regarding this application. Seeing none, I think at this point we could close the public meeting. We had a motion to do so. There's no letters to be written,
No
right?
letters.
No, this has been
Make a
going on
motion to
for a long
close.
time.
Second by Steve, all in favor?
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did.
Mark?
Mark.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
No problem, Colleen.
And do we have any thoughts on this?
No, I understand what they did. I don't see any issue with it.
Anything else? No concerns? Entertain a motion to either approve or deny the application for 44 Westford Street, Lot 2.
I'll make a motion to approve the variance under 195-9 that lacks the required lot width.
To be measured.
To measure based on the,
Council's letter, I'd say.
Bingo.
okay, that sounds good.
To
I'll second that.
Second by Charlie Wojers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No abstentions?
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, this will go straight.
Second application is Blair and Marie Mickelson, 14 Lakeside Ave.
Any idea how I did that?
They're requesting a variance under 195-9, conformity to construct a new 24 by 32 garage on a non-conforming lot area and frontage that will not meet side yard setbacks. Good evening.
Hi.
We're just gonna catch up on the thing here. Our computers are not being the best.
I am able to get it on the screen.
That's what I'm
It's
doing.
almost a copy and paste to your bar. I think these iPads need an update that we didn't know.
She did a job with Equifax.
Last time it was
Brian,
Paul
take mine.
Cohen and I were up here
Take
I'm
updating
in,
them all.
I'm in.
You're in.
So good evening. If we could have your name and address for the record.
14 Lakeside Avenue, Blair and Marie Michelson.
You want to tell us what you want to do?
Yeah, we're looking to tear down an existing structure that's pretty dilapidated and move the garage back a little bit, same square footage, and put up a new 2-story garage. So same setbacks to the side yard as current, and I think it meets all the other frontage requirements.
You can feel free to point.
Yeah, they tried
Yeah.
to do some color coding so you
Please
could see
do,
where the
because this is a
current
difficult
structure
The
is.
current one, it's a little bit longer or narrower. And we're looking to push it back behind the yards, the herb ponds over here, and keep the same setbacks on the side yard. This is our first meeting too, so.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I mean, we're just trying to,
Ours too.
it is a complex plan, as much as I don't think it shows you that much. It's just a lot of,
Yeah, it's hard to
A lot of
read.
information in a small
Yeah,
plan.
the old,
So tell, yeah, the
the old garage
colors.
is the blue
Yeah.
here, and then the new one is the proposed is the red.
there's Mr. Flaherty. He colors awesome.
This wasn't,
I have some letters here I'm going to read into the file. The Board of Health has no concerns. Center Water District has no concerns. Community Development has no comment. The Building Department, in my professional opinion, if approved, this would set an unwelcome precedent.
I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
That's
that's
the
the
wrong
wrong,
letter.
that's the wrong letter.
50 Philip Parker.
For some reason, and that was the wrong letter for Evan too. This is 54.
We are looking at 54 parking is where I stand now.
I'm sorry. Let me fix that for you, okay?
We're going to start over.
Okay.
You didn't like hearing that a bit, did you?
I got a little worried.
Okay, now we're at 14 Lakeside Ave. The Board of Health has no concerns. Center Water District has no concerns. Community Development has no concerns. The Building Department has no concerns. Engineering, the sewer service for the house is shown to run between the house and the existing garage to be removed. Care should be taken not to disturb the sewer service. Contact the sewer department for assistance. The fire department has no concerns. And that's it. I'm going to go into the audience and see if anyone here has concerns or comments regarding this application. You do, please approach the podium. All right, no one's here for you either, so that's good.
Well, I have a few questions, Brian.
Okay, Charlie.
Have you gone before conservation yet?
We've, our builder has submitted everything to, I'm drawing a blank, Katie.
I guess that would be out of order if I didn't ask. Could you make it a little smaller by any chance?
So we're trying to make it so that 2 vehicles can fit in there.
Yeah. So we're going with I think a 18-foot garage door to try to keep it as narrow as we can, while still keeping it a 2-car garage.
Because as you can see it, would be based on how thin the yard is and how
Yeah, I
wide
see
the
that.
house is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We tried to make the setbacks to the side yard a little bit larger, but then it kind of overlaps the back of the house, and it's just kind of
So try to not worsen it.
yeah, right.
Where's the driveway going to go?
Right, pretty much, it's gonna go right over the top of the old structure.
And that was why we wanted to set it back right now, because that turn radius is really hard, based on where this fence goes and.
Yeah, so the lakeside comes right here, and
So you're making a very hard left to get to the, I see,
hard to
I
even
see.
pull our 2 vehicles in there.
Are there any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
A second by Steve. And I think we can take this up. Other concerns regarding this? I think, Lakeside Avenue is known for its really difficult lots. It's obviously a unique shape. And I really don't see any other place you could put it that wouldn't create further encroachment. I'd say that's a motion, but I can't make a
Well,
motion.
Brian, having said that, what you just said, plus, I'd like to move to approve the variance for 14 Lakeside under 195-9 for the non-conforming lot that will not meet side setbacks.
Have a second to that motion?
Second.
By Steve. All in favor? Aye.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you tell it.
Fun time.
No, this is
You can't do it anymore.
Right, right.
Yeah, they are.
Our next application is Pam Vega, 54 Parker Road.
Part of what he's going to be
You
presenting.
want me to, I can pass them down.
Perfect.
This is 54. Mr. Hausler,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board,
I'm just going to read the notice, sir.
yes, absolutely.
A hearing for a special permit and a variance here. Pam Vega, 54 Parker Road, a variance under 195-9, conformity to split existing conforming lot with a non-conforming structure, front setback corner lot into 2 non-conforming lots. Files and plans are available for review in the Community Development Office. Good evening.
Good evening. We are asking for a continuance, and the reason is that we have seen that a lot of people came out this evening. We hadn't been contacted in advance, so we'd like the opportunity to meet with any neighbors, hear their concerns, see if there's a way to address those concerns informally first. You have a very long agenda. We hadn't received any of the opposition letters or any comments from the various departments. So we want to evaluate all that and then come before you. And I think that's the best use of your time and our time, and to be fair to the neighbors. So we're asking for a continuance without any testimony.
Okay, you would rather not read the letters and...
Yes, please.
Could I have a motion to continue without prejudice?
To January.
Then, it-
December 8th and January 4th?
can we do December 8th, or?
We'd prefer to do January 4th, just because of the agenda on December.
We'll do that. We have to go with your board.
January 4th, 2018, good lord.
I'll make a motion to continue without prejudice until January 4th, 2018.
Second, Brian.
Second by Charlie, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we'll hope to talk to the neighbors. Thank you very much.
Very good idea, thank you.
Thank you.
2018 already.
I can't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I was like, Second, so who seconded that? Steve?
No.
Yes.
Charles.
Gonzalez? Yes. 132 Dunstable? Yeah, that's continued to January 4th. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna officially continue 132, oh, no, we're gonna do
Yeah,
this
go
one
ahead and
first.
continue that one. You can just take it out of order if you want. There's a letter in there to read.
Bless you.
Gorham Street.
I'll continue it after the 115.
We're gonna,
Yeah, take them
we're
out of
gonna
order.
continue the 7 Gorham,
I'm gonna recuse myself from this upcoming application, or actually
Who's gonna be the chair, who's the co-chair? Mark.
Mark.
what was it called?
This is 115, Parker?
Yeah, 115.
An administrative appeal. I'm gonna recuse myself from that. Mr. Corrado will be sitting as chair.
Okay, so 115 Parker, is it Gadboy?
Getbois, yep.
Gadbois.
Correct.
For administrative appeal of the decision of the building commissioner of the town of Chelmsford for a violation of the zoning bylaws regarding the operation of a commercial business in a residential zone, RB, single family residential at the property of 115 Parker Road. And just read in the letter from Mark first, or probably be appropriate at this point, and then
Put it up
we
on the
can,
screen as well.
Excuse me?
I can put it on the screen as well.
Okay, that'd be great. Letter from Mark Dupel, our building commissioner. Dear Commissioner Dupel, oh no, I'm sorry, this is their response. Let me get Mark's letter. Here we go. Please be advised this office has received, oh, this is a complaint. You got a complaint too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on, let me see if I can go through this pile.
I think it was a
and
September 21st letter.
find- October 23rd, this.
Yeah.
28th, 17th, 5th.
Maybe I
Should be
should,
a letter in here from Mark, right?
I think maybe when I was redoing stuff, it probably got thrown out.
Is this what you're referring to? Because these other ones are just standard.
Yeah, well, this is his response. This is,
Oh, he didn't write a formal letter?
no, but
Okay.
this is all his backup.
Okay. All right, well, maybe at this point, Mark, if you can just summarize what your issue was, and then we can go to the,
Well, based on the package that was given to you, we've been receiving complaints from neighbors throughout the years based on what's perceived as a commercial firewood business at the above residence. At one point, Inspector Allen went out based on a complaint. The homeowners actually invited him out to take a look at the property. He determined at that time that there was no commercial type business going on. Then in February of 2017, we received another complaint. Inspector Allen went out again and made a determination that there was a commercial type firewood business at the residential property.
and that was based on equipment, et cetera?
Equipment
that
and
was-
his site and his perception of what he saw.
Okay,
Town council got involved because it's been an ongoing case. Attorney Haverty sent them a letter that got missed in the mail or whatever. Attorney Haverty felt it was in the best interest of all if I issued another cease and desist. That way they would have a chance to appeal that, and that's where we are
Okay,
today.
okay,
And that's the
great.
September 21st letter.
thanks for the background. If you would like to speak to your,
I run heavy equipment for a living. I've been an operator for over 30 years. I know the regulations as far as noise, not to start before 7 o'clock. Anytime after 9 at night is the ordinance in Chelmsford for domestic chainsaws, lawnmowers. I'm involved with, I used to have a tree cutting service business on the side, which I've gotten out of since my son's been getting older. He's in Cub Scouts, so I do a lot of stuff with him doing that. And I heat my house with firewood. I have electric heat. It's every zone in my house is electric, and I don't turn it on because I can't afford electric heat. So I run my wood stove. And that's I've written letters to Mark. I'm one of 11 children, and everybody lives in this area. I have 4 siblings in this area that burn firewood. I've offered to give addresses if they wanted to go see each house. I have a sister in Billerica, my brother in Billerica, my sister in Westford. And like I said, I guess I'm missing where the wood business part comes in if there's nothing coming off the property other than going to my siblings. I don't run anything during the week. These incidents as far as the noise, I know one of the letters said a truck had delivered some firewood because I had stopped cutting trees, which I used to bring home and I wouldn't have to pay for them. I did have 2 loads delivered from Community Tree Service when I was in there dropping some brush off or something. And he was kind of jammed up for room, so he gave me a good deal on it, so I got it. And that was one of the things that they had dropped off. I know one of the letters, like I said, the complainant said that they heard a big truck and yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, if anybody knows anything about log trucks, it's probably a 15-minute ordeal just to unload a truck. And it wasn't, short of that, I was at work, so I don't know. I mean, the truck it's just idling to unload it. Basically, like I said, I just don't understand where the business part of it comes into if there are no trucks leaving with split firewood. That's like I said, I'm just missing it, and this has been going on since 2013, and I don't know if when at some point it's going to stop, or that I don't have to keep getting harassed every 9 months because I go out and run a chainsaw. From where my wood is in the back of my property to the closest complainant is probably 400 feet. And like I said, I don't sell anything other than a chainsaw. And if it's not even every weekend, it's whenever I need to split some. My brother Thomas will come over, my brother Stephen will come over, he lives in Chelmsford, and give me a hand doing it. I mean, I don't know what more I can explain, or I've offered to show Mark electric bills to show that I have a low electric bill because I don't pay for heat. And I mean, I run wood. I probably burn wood 8 months out of the year.
So the only trucks that are coming in and out of your property are the 1 or 2 that came from Community Tree to drop off? And then your trucks, your truck leaving to drop it off to your siblings?
Yes, I have an F-550. I know one of the complaints had said something about a backup alarm. That's a DOT regulation. I have to have a backup alarm on a truck that's that size. I have a friend that lives the last thing I did for a friend of mine was a gentleman down in Westwood. Excuse me. He had 60 plus trees that he wanted to cut out of his house. So I cut everything down. I got rid of all the stuff for him. He gave me the wood for doing it because he was going to just throw it out. And I paid for a log truck to go down and get it. And there were 4 loads delivered out in the back behind my barn. I don't know, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe something like that. And it wasn't like all in one day. It was sporadic whenever the guy had time to do it. And like I said, he's out behind the barn. It's just I don't. And I went up to talk to the lawyer, and on my way I spoke with Mark, and I had asked him right out. I said, if I do something like that, do I have the right to bring the wood to my house? And he said yes. So I just don't get where 2 and 2 add up to when the firewood is being delivered out of my yard. As a business, I guess. Nobody knows how big my house is. They don't know what size wood stove I have. I don't know how.
It sounds to me like everybody is just responding to the activity levels that are there that seem abnormal to them.
Right, but
or somebody that would normally be dealing with, that kind of a thing in their yard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I can read from this.
I mean, I know one of the concerns was the machine. Like I said, I run heavy equipment for a living. I do know some things about it. I could have been fixing it for all they know. I know Marty didn't come in the second time, and if he did, I would have invited him in. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to. I don't. Like I said, I just do my thing. I'm try to be a good neighbor and just. I don't know what else to say.
Can I speak too?
This is my wife, Lisa.
Could you
Hi.
Just say Lisa.
Say your name.
Oh,
and-
yes. Lisa Gabla. I'm his wife. We've lived at 115 Parker Road for about 9 years now. There's just a couple things that I'd like to point out. One of the things that I'd like to mention is, as Peter stated, I brought all of our National Grid electric bills since we moved into our house 9 years ago. We have 12 zones in our house. We have a young child, he's 8 now, and I do not turn on electricity to heat our house. It would cost us probably $500 or $600 a month to do that, and I'm not about to spend that much money when we have access to wood. We have a huge property. We have a barn, well, an oversized garage in the back. I can prove that a normal house of our size, which is about 2,300 square feet, would cost a heck of a lot more to heat if we were turning on electricity. But our bills show that we're burning wood. I'm burning wood. My husband leaves for work early in the morning, and I'm the one that's starting fires to keep our family warm. Now, a second thing I'd like to point out besides the bills is if people are going to accuse us of something, I would think neighborly people would have the courtesy to come and talk to us instead of just filing off appeals about things. One of the complaints mentioned something about burning rubber. I would smell that. I would smell that. My husband would smell that. I don't know what that's from. I have 3 neighbors to support us right now. I have a neighbor who lives right next to us. I have a neighbor right here. And they can speak for, and I have another neighbor that's one house down from him, and I have a letter of support from a neighbor at 111 Parker Road, which bypasses the neighbor next to us, saying, and I can provide this letter if we need to, but it is from Michelle McNaught, and it is written to the Board of Appeals, to whom it may concern. I reside at 111 Parker Road, Chelmsford, Mass. With my 2 teenage children. In regards to the home of Peter Gadbar at 115 Parker Road, we have not heard excessive noise from that residence. We have spent a great deal of time at our pool in our backyard this summer and have not heard annoying noises from 115 Parker Road, 2 houses away. Now, this is not, I work full-time. I'm a children's librarian. I run the children's department at the Billerica Public Library. I've worked for the town of Billerica for 19 years. I know what it's like to work for the public. I'll wrap it up. My point is that we have wood, we have the right to burn wood in our house. That's how I'm gonna heat my home. Believe me, if everybody wanted to kick in and put in a gas system for us, that would be wonderful. But we can't afford that, so we use the wood. Now, in terms of activity, this is not a daily thing. We don't have these big logging trucks coming to our house every day. It might have come maybe, it might have come maybe twice this year. This is not an ongoing thing. Now, in terms of wood, when it's long, needs to be cut. I cannot jam a long log into my wood-burning stove unless it's cut down to a 16 or 18-inch side. So we have some machinery in order to cut it and get it to that particular size so that we can season it and use it in our home. So in terms of noise complaints, I have 3 different neighbors that can attest to that. In terms of volume of business, the inspector who came out and said now the volume is different, I'd like to know the qualifications to say, okay, this average family should only burn 3 cords of wood versus maybe 10 cords of wood. Nobody knows our burning habits. Maybe I like to keep my house warm. That's up to me.
I think what, if I might, I think what they're trying to say is, I don't think anybody's questioning whether or not you're only burning it at your house. I think what your husband mentioned is that you're also getting enough volume through there for maybe 3 or 4 other family members.
Right.
So it appears to them, in a volume standpoint, with the amount of activity, that it's certainly something more than one would use to heat their home.
Correct.
I think that's what the question is here. I don't think anybody needs to see National Grid,
But on this,
bills for electric or anything else.
But in
on
terms
the
of a
other-
quote commercial business,
That's-
there's no signage, there's no business
no,
cards.
no.
Well, that's what it
Lisa,
says.
didn't
Well,
say
it
that.
says commercial business.
Right, no,
Just
I realize
let him
that, but I think
explain.
it's based on the activity and the equipment, and that's what I read. Is that fair, Mark? From
Yes.
what?
But
That's all I've read.
And like with the responses that I've sent Mark, I don't have the copies, but I have explained that I do have siblings that I do bring wood to. My sister Donna, like I said, my sister Donna, Veronica, Stephen, my brother Thomas. I'm one of 11.
Okay.
And if I can't help people out or help them out, and I mean, I
Understand.
pay taxes on my land. I should be able to. Like I said, I try to keep everything back. I keep my yard neat. I don't know. I don't know what else really.
Anybody
Hey,
have
Ma-
any
yeah,
other
Mark, I have a
questions?
question.
Go
I have a question for you, actually, Mark. Is one of the reasons you're denying this is because a woodlot is only allowed in IA and IS?
Yes,
That's part of the reason?
right.
Okay, and the
'Cause
other,
In our view, it's a commercial activity in a residential zone.
What is IA and IS?
Yeah, what is that?
Industrial zones.
Oh, it is. So, okay, back to our conversation that we had that Tuesday morning when I said, can I cut the trees and bring them to my house? And you said yes. But and then the next breath you say that I'm running a commercial business in a residential zone. I guess I don't get the end
So if you're cutting the trees and bringing them to your house for your use, that's one thing. If you're
Okay.
cutting up trees, bringing them to your house, and then they're being dispersed to other entities, that's a different thing.
Right.
Or handed out? I'm just asking.
So
Oh.
siblings, I can't bring it to siblings.
We can't store and
Not
season
till
wood in
you're
our
up.
yard.
I'm gonna get into what is viewed and what is allowed. I don't know your siblings, that's
Right.
fine, but
Is there a certain amount of cordage, if that's even a word, that you would feel is a reasonable amount?
Like what would consider a commercial, like 100 cords of wood? 50 cords of wood, 30 cords of wood? I don't, like I said, we're trying to get an idea of what the volume of how Marty made his decision on,
I think Monty made his decision based on his average cord use, my average cord use, and what we consider the average cord use.
But how can you do that when every
Yeah.
person's an individual and your needs are different than our needs?
right.
And Marty didn't take the
I
time
s-
to come discuss.
Excuse me, I said average.
Okay, average.
So
but
so if you average everything,
What is your average? What number is that?
10.
Average is 10? Okay.
Okay.
And that's what you feel that the average homeowner burns in a season? Now, that's 10 cords on site at one point, or 10 cords of seasoned and 10 cords of unseasoned, because you can't use, it's gotta be stored for the next, I don't know a whole lot about wood, but
Regardless
What-
of the average, though, is it not that you said that you provide at least 4 times what your family uses? Is that not correct?
this is a one-time thing. We've never had this much wood. We happen to get all of this wood right now.
I give wood to my siblings.
But
Because my sister can't split it herself, my other sister Veronica can't split it herself, and my brother Thomas comes over and helps me.
So when we had access to this
I mean,
big
I
load
don't
of free
know.
wood, we're gonna take
I-
it, we're gonna split it, we're gonna season it, and we're gonna share it.
I guess I didn't know that there was a regulation.
Can I ask you a question? Are you getting free wood from Community Tree Service?
No, we had to pay for that.
Oh, well, I just hearing you saying you were getting all this free wood.
No,
Free wood
the,
from
the,
the
the
trees
job
that
that I
we
had
cut.
done for my friend down
Yeah,
in
I have a
Westwood.
receipt for what we had to buy from Community Tree Service. Peter knows the people at Community Tree Service.
That's fine.
Oh.
I asked Peter for a copy of the receipt from a community tree drop-off probably a year ago and never received it.
I never got a letter.
I asked you in a phone conversation.
Well, I don't remember that, and if you need to see it, I can produce one. But I guess I'm waiting for somebody to tell me there's a regulation on being able to give wood to a family member if they're not able to do it themselves. I guess I don't know, and then unless somebody else has some more light to shed on.
I think I'd also like to know if our accusers are feeling that this is something that's happening daily, 365 days a year, if this is something
mean,
happening
like I
once
said,
a week.
I
Is
work
it the
every day of
truck
the week.
coming back and forth?
Okay.
I've had to drive the
Okay.
dump truck.
I think
Okay.
I've kind of seen everything in here. So why don't we open this up to folks that may want to speak,
Perfect.
for or against this?
Tony, my neighbor next door.
Just.
Next
state
door
your name,
neighbor,
address, thanks.
Anthony Zagrafis, 119 Parker Road. Never had any problems with noise or any kind of activity out of the ordinary. Next door, I know Peter heats his house with wood, and he helps his siblings to do the same. Absolutely no problem. None. Zero. Most of the noise comes from Parker Road with the the traffic and the trucks and this and that. Nothing to do with Peter. And so I have no problem. My bedroom, by the way, faces where you're talking about, and there's no problem.
Anyone else? Just name and address, please.
Joe Marino, 121 Parker Road. I've lived there for 7 years, and I know that Peter is not running a commercial business, selling and buying wood. I know he buys wood and splits it for himself and his brothers and his sisters because I've been out there helping them personally. I've gone out there and helped his brother split lumber. And he does have equipment to do so. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary, so.
Where is your house in relation to?
I'm next to him, so
You're on
I'm
the other side. So you're 2 houses away from.
2 houses away,
Okay.
right.
Very close.
But I spend a lot of time there. I help him split lumber. And I help him stack it in his garage, and I help him drop it off his brother's house.
Okay.
And he's not selling it, so.
Was there one other person?
Hi, my name is Brenda Amlashy, and I live at 1 Green Valley Drive, and my house is across the street from 115 Parker Road. I worked in public service too. I was a school teacher for 35 years. Now I am retired and I am home every day. And I love my backyard. We have trees. We have an in-ground swimming pool. I like to garden. I like to sit on my deck, on my rocking chair. I like to listen to the birds. I enjoy my backyard. We have nice landscaping. And we've lived there for 25 years. As far as the noise, it is almost every day. However, since the beginning of October, it's been blissfully quiet because all the equipment disappeared. All the wood activity stopped. And our home was blissfully quiet, the way it used to be before Peter moved in. My son and myself have personally, at different times, seen giant trucks come in with at least 30 trees, giant trees. And they rumble down that little road, Parker Road, which is not made for heavy equipment. And they go in and they make a big noise, and I look out the window, and it doesn't take 15 minutes. It takes at least an hour to unload that machine. And there's a big crane that's on the machine, and it picks up the log, and it puts the log down on the ground. And the whole yard is filled with wood, all kinds of cut-up wood. And I've seen Peter leave in his truck filled, and it's not like a pickup truck, it's bigger than a pickup truck, and it's filled with cords of wood. And I know that he's processing the wood because I can hear it. He has all kinds of machines in his backyard. He has backhoes, he has chainsaws, he has like a slide that the cords of wood go down and it clunks against metal, clunk, clunk, clunk. And I can hear that for hours. And he then has people helping him, and they're yelling in the backyard like Sunday afternoon, hey, and the beeping of machinery, beep, beep, beep. And this is a Sunday afternoon. I can't enjoy my backyard. I have to go in the house. And, I've taken out a radio with classical music to try to block out the sound of buzzing chainsaws, beeping trucks, clanking metal from cords of wood, running motors, the smell of exhaust from large trucks. This goes on all the time. And if you change the zoning for commercial, it will never stop. It will just get louder and louder. There'll be more and more trucks. He's not telling the truth about a lot of things. And it upsets me so, because for years I have been trying to get attention. Finally, I've gotten this attention, that this man is ruining my quiet life, because I get joy from being outside. Like I said, I taught for 35 years, and now I'm home. I'm home to enjoy the forest. I grew up in Lowell. We had no trees where I grew up in Lowell. And now I have a beautiful yard. Like I said, for 25 years, we've had this yard. And we have the pool. It's a heated pool. We have landscaping. We've made it a beautiful home, which we cannot enjoy because someone is chopping up wood all the time. And I know when they're burning wood because I can smell it. They have a dirty chimney. It's the smell of a dirty chimney. It has a certain smell to it. And they don't burn wood all the time because I've looked up the smell, and it is the residue or something from the, when you burn a chimney, wood in a chimney, you're supposed to clean the chimney every now and then. So they don't, they've burned wood on occasion, but they don't burn wood all the time. And I know people who have gas wood stoves, and they buy the wood. They don't process the wood themselves. And we shouldn't have to suffer because they cut up wood, and not just for themselves, like they said, for all their for their whole family. So I have been complaining to the Click Fix since I think it was, I don't have my glasses on, it's been since 2016. And I've complained 3 times. I've talked to Mark. I've written a letter to Tom Cristiano, my town rep. And I just hope that I can have some rest, that this wood business will stop, because I can't take it anymore. The noise is driving me crazy. Did you ever hear a chainsaw? You know, maybe if your neighbor was cutting a tree or something, you hear that loud noise from a chainsaw, but then it stops because they have maybe 1 or 2 trees. And then it stops. But this doesn't stop. It happens all the time. And if the zoning is ever changed, it will never stop. And it's my house, if you've ever seen, it's just Parker Road is a small road. And I'm right across the street from all of that activity.
I think we definitely understand what you,
All right, so
your issues are here.
Can I rebut what she just said?
Just
No?
hang on, can you just allow this to finish and then?
Unbelievable.
I've taught for
I
35
don't,
years.
Come on, please, please.
So
You're gonna have to
I'm an
leave
honest
if you
person.
continue.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak in favor or against,
Against.
or have any concerns about this?
My name is Nasser Amlashi. I live in 1 Green Valley Drive. I'm Brenda's husband. From early days, that was the problem. I talked to Peter and I mentioned it, that what are you gonna about noise pollution? There was no response. The second question I had, why you wanna bring a business to your home? No answer. But the reason I know it's a business, because the size of the things and the amount of noise it creates. How can it not be a business? When you the machinery has developed during these years. They got more sophisticated and more complicated. And the sound of it is you can hear it. How can it not be a business? When you back and forth, trucks back and forth, is it private use? How is it possible? And then that area is not provided for that kind of trucking and that kind of traffic. As is, parking road is falling apart. So these trucks going back and forth, when your vehicle is making beeping noise when in the reverse, that means that vehicle is a commercial vehicle, plain and simple. Now, every day it's happening. No, yeah, that's what they say is true. It doesn't happen all the time because they have a steady job. They go to work after they come home, and they on the free time the clicking and clacking starts to make noises, and that's the time I want to relax. I don't want to hear to your extra whatever it is that you want to make extra money. You want to make extra money. You made extra money to buy all these heavy-duty equipment. Okay. Pick it up and move it to the other side, the zoning, another zoning. Why do you bring it as commercial? Besides, these are all family-oriented houses. You cannot bring heavy truck in there. It's not safe and it's not proper.
I think we understand your point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
One more thing. For those people who don't hear it, they better go check the hearing.
Joe Reddy, 9 Turnpike Road. Just curious if this actually would actually fall under the farming and agricultural thing that we passed at town meeting. There was a legislative thing where we said we're a farming community, and I believe that one of the things that falls under that is actually the maintenance of basically keeping firewood and farming your land. So I think that might be something you might want to consider. It's chapter 127, I think, -3.
Name?
Arthur Glatt, 113 Parker. I'm an abutter.
Okay.
I think we're down to semantics. In fairness, I don't know whether or not it's a business or not, but Peter's already said that, and the building inspector has said that there's enough cordage going through that it could be a business. We've been there for 40 years. For those of you who've been around that long, there was a time when you tried to heat your house with firewood because that's what you did. We never went through 10 cords of wood. We went through a couple of cords of wood. We didn't go through 10. I'm not arguing that somebody might not use 10. And I'm not arguing that somebody shouldn't be able to help their family. But if they need 10 or more and they've got a number of siblings and we're suddenly talking about, I don't know, a lot of cordage, I don't know. Isn't it a business? Whether they're getting paid, whether they're making money, it just is. And that's not what we're zoned for. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else has any opinions on this or thoughts about it? Okay. Board? I mean, typical closure. Okay.
If I may.
Yes.
Just to make sure everybody understands, what the board is trying to decide here is whether it's an allowed residential use or it's a commercial use. That's all we're deciding. We're not deciding to change the zoning district or anything like that.
We understand
And
that.
what we're doing is we're just looking at the evidence presented to you. If you feel like we need more evidence, more documentations or things like that to try to make an establishment of what is happening, we can also do that as well. But we're just using the evidence that's presented in front of us to make that determination, commercial or residential.
As well as our building commissioner's view of this.
Right, exactly, yep.
Okay. If no one else, make a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Sure.
Okay. Want to take this up or comment or discussion?
I think we need to discuss this. We need to say if hauling your wood to your siblings for free, is that allowed in a residential area?
I don't think it matters so much as to who it's going to or for what profit it may be. I mean, you have some people saying there's a lot coming in. You have someone that's admitting that there's some more than just the family, the person who lives in that home's use. but we don't really have a whole lot of other evidentiary, like, physical stuff. I wouldn't be opposed to looking for more, documentation.
In the form, what would you be looking for?
Yeah.
Just,
Um,
because, you know,
what's going in, what's coming out, really.
Yeah, I don't know if, it's a difficult issue, right? Because it's hard to determine whether somebody's making money off of something or not. And what is defined as a business is kind of a gray area. It is more of a judgment call for the board.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know. I mean, it would be, you know, perfectly all right to try to accept other evidence from both sides to try to make a better determination if you don't think what we have so far is sufficient to make that decision. Okay.
I mean, I have a question. So if we were to, you know, take it to an extreme and say, okay, you know, he's a great guy and he wants to process wood for half of Chelmsford for free. He's not getting paid for it, but he's processing large quantities of wood, not for profit, but, you know.
To just hand it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a commercial?
That is a good question that I don't know. I don't know what type of case law that would fall under. That would be an interesting case, I think. I think it's a judgment call for the board. to make that
at that point,
determination.
it could
If
be-
somebody is just giving out, you know, wood to family members, is that different than to residential friends? And then giving out wood for free, you know, how much wood does it become a
Yeah.
business or not a
What's
business?
commercial quantities versus
Right,
personal
exactly.
quantities?
It is, it's a
Exactly.
board determination.
And is there money exchanging hands or not, the whole?
Sure, right.
I mean, even if it's free, if it's.
Right, no,
If it was,
I'm with you.
If he's handling 12 trees an hour or something for free, then it would be, you know, excessive quantities of wood, but well, I don't know where that line. it's akin to, you know, somebody that's an auto mechanic and is fixing everybody in the neighborhood's car for free.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's not a business. And that doesn't mean it's an allowed use in a residential zone just because he's doing it for free and trying to be a nice guy.
Yes.
I mean,
The only issue here, what makes this a little bit tricky, is because it is a use, somebody can cut down trees in this district if they want for their own personal use.
Right.
You know, where's the line of personal use to commercial use is an interpretation for the board to make.
I mean, either way, I mean, if we want to vote today or if you guys want to get more, that's up to you guys.
I mean, the only thing we could do to get more is to find out the ins and outs with invoices and so forth,
Well, would
as
there be
market.
but there are no invoices.
There are no invoices, like I said,
You bought, did you
Oh,
buy
I
from
bought-
Community Tree?
You're right, I bought,
Okay,
yeah, two
and
of
did
those.
you also get some from somebody else where you
You
could?
might wanna open
You could get
the
a letter
open
from
public
them
hearing.
and could you,
Okay.
I mean, that's
Or
what
take
I'm,
more testimony.
that's what I'm wondering. I mean, we could do that to find out what's coming in and certainly understand the difference between what's coming in and what's going out.
But didn't
What would
he
be
say
used.
that
But, I mean, that's about all we
cuts his
can do.
trees down and just keeps them? So.
Well, he keeps some of them, but then he distributes, cuts and distributes to
We're
his
not gonna know
siblings.
what's coming in
Active
there.
distributing and creating a
Right,
service.
exactly, so.
It's not every day of the week.
Yeah, it's
How
not-
is that possible?
See, that's why when you said to get more information, just wondering
Well,
what
I'm
it
just
is we
wondering
can
if-
actually get that would help us to make a decision around this, excuse me, other than Mark's review of the situation, the complaints that we have here, and certainly what we've heard today. I mean, I don't know, is there, what piece
Alright,
is
we can-
missing that would help us with this? That's, I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
Well, I mean, I think it's been brought up that there's been machines and they've been removed and brought back and whatnot. So, I mean, I don't even know if a picture or a site walk or anything would really be of value because it is something that can be changed quite easily.
Mm-hmm, right.
Personally, I don't think
Hard one.
I see much value in gathering
I-
more information
I don't
outside
either.
of.
Okay.
I don't think that there's anything that will materially change our minds or help us, unless if somebody does. Do you, Charlie?
I think we've heard it about all, you know. Sorry,
agree.
sorry,
So-
Jackie.
At this point, we're just trying to determine whether the usage that has been described today is deemed commercial or residential?
Yep. appeal, upholding an
Personal
appeal
use.
or not,
So we're gonna either uphold or.
The appeal or not, yeah, right.
Reverse it.
Correct.
I think that's what we're here to vote on.
All right.
There's no noise, by the way.
The public
Just
is
let you
closed.
know that.
Yeah, the public hearing is closed,
Next
so
door
you can't,
neighbor.
you,
No
sir,
noise.
You're gonna have to leave, sir, if you continue. This public hearing's closed. The door's there.
Got it.
Okay.
I can't speak?
no.
The hearing's closed.
There's no more testimony.
Anybody care to?
Okay, since we've heard all we're gonna hear, probably, I'd make a motion to uphold the building commissioner's decision to say that it's a violation of the zoning bylaws.
I second that.
Okay. Vote. All in favor? Okay.
So what does that mean?
That means you'll need to abide by the letter that you've been issued by the town to cease and desist. In the fines that were mentioned here. I think if you work with the building commissioner potentially and go back to more of a, I'm taking care of my own home, I think it would probably be fine. I think everybody's good with that. I think the fact, the volume and everything that's going through there is the problem, the size of the equipment and everything else, which is what the judgment of the inspector was. So I think you need to work with them. Or you're gonna be fined.
No, I agree.
Okay, I think that's all they want to do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your explanation.
Okay, thanks. So somebody want to grab Brian, or
Hopefully you can.
is it my
figure
turn
it
to go
out.
out in the hall?
Yeah. You should stay in
Why didn't
here.
Gonzalez stay?
Did we already, take that one out of order? No, right?
No, we didn't take it out of
No,
order.
he
No,
just
it was
sort
in
of
order. The
notified
next one
people
is
Both
the,
of-
Okay. Oh, here he comes.
hey, how was the mini bar out there? That's what we were saying.
You guys all look fabulous on
Oh, yeah. It's a good time. Thanks a lot, Bill.
And just so you know, we did not get
Continue.
no, we did not get, for the next hearing, a decision from the sign advisory committee.
Oh, the
We're
next,
gonna-
okay, I see.
But we're officially going to do the Tingsboro Road one next?
Yeah, so what we're gonna do is continue 132 Tingsboro Road officially. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
out.
we're gonna
I'm
continue
out.
Yeah.
to the 4th of,
So if I can
January,
get
right?
a
Yep.
motion to continue,
motion to continue.
second by Steve.
Dream team tonight.
132 Tingsboro Road, also known as Plot 1A Dunstable Road, will be continued until January 4th, 2018.
Who made that motion, Jackie?
Our next application is the Hong and Kong, 32 Alpine Lane. I can't even try to pronounce your name, I apologize.
Xiaomei?
Come on, give it a
Rick.
shot.
Xiaomei Li?
Right?
I'm going Xiaomei Li. Xiaomei Lu.
You don't even know you're talking.
Thank you.
They're seeking a variance under 19528, non-conforming signs, and 19530, prohibited signs to replace an existing roof sign, approximately 153 square feet, with a new same size and location, but will now have LED illumination.
Oh.
That's part of the package, not the big one.
God, this is so hard. I hate this thing.
Flips.
So the yellow will be lit up.
Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. The sign is over 50 years old when the building was built. So, it's made by the neon. So some of the neon is missing, and it's very, very old, and it's is rusty, you know, for the structure. So we decided to build up a new one, brand new one, with the same design, same size, with the LED illumination instead of the existing one.
So only the letters are gonna light up? And
Yes, only the leather will be
So
light.
like the gold will be paint, it won't be illuminated?
You can go look.
That's what I was trying.
That's what it looked like, I just wanted to clear, because when I looked at it at home, I thought that whole thing was gonna
So
light
at
up.
night, this is all that's lighting up.
All right.
So this is all you see.
Okay. Yeah.
Not even the
Thank you.
candle?
It's the candle. Candle
Should
lights
be-
up too.
Candle should be lit.
It's one candle power.
It's certainly, in my opinion, a bit of a landmark.
Especially these days.
50 years doesn't surprise me, but it's been there since time began.
I never noticed the candle until tonight.
And has this gone through the sign committee?
That's what I was just saying. No, no, it has
Really
not.
needs to.
We don't have a sign committee.
don't-
technically,
yeah.
so
It's
we're
not, there is nothing there now?
Not really. We had
Okay.
A
some
member?
vacancies,
Oh,
so.
we still do. I never know what's going on with those guys. And then they only have so long to
I
state
was doing
something
well
to us.
getting them together and stuff, but then we had a couple of vacancies and an illness.
Okay, so I guess this is the new sign committee.
Yeah. For the time being, we're trying. We're
Oh,
trying, just like here.
Just trying to follow the
I
requirements. Okay.
totally understand.
Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application this evening? Seeing none, I think we can look for a motion to take this up. I don't believe I have any letters for this.
There should be a couple letters.
Oh, there is one? I thought the only one we'd see was the sign of the...
No, it's not.
I might be wrong. I did send it out.
Can I ask questions while you look?
Yes, I think you should.
When will the sign be turned off at night? At what time will the sign be illuminated from?
It's controlled by the timer, so, you know,
The restaurant we close at 1:30 on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we close at 12:30 during the week, so right around that time, the timer will be set for.
So just hours of operation?
Correct.
And that's what it currently does, right?
Actually, currently, it stays on all night.
Oh, okay.
We found that the more that we turn it on and off, because of the problems that we've had with it, because it's so old, the more they turn it off, we turn it on, and then something doesn't work, we have to get the sign company out, and truly, since Mr. and Mrs. Lee purchased the place last September, they've put about $5,000 into replacing the pieces of the sign. And the sign company that we were using before told us that in order to get it up and running again, we would basically have to replace the whole sign, and it would, I mean, the cost to replace it with this gentleman here is only twice what we've already put into it, and to do the neon would be massively more than that. So the LED just makes more sense. And structurally, because the sign is so old and rusted, it's, one good storm could take it out. So we really would like to replace it with something very similar to what's already there.
And are you aware of the output limitations on luminescence from those signs?
Yes, we know that it has to be a certain lit a
Yeah,
certain.
they're not lumens anymore, though. I
No,
got really
they're
confused.
nits, but it's still
That's a
luminescence.
nix, right?
Yeah, it's 4,000 Kelvin
Right.
or lower.
And what's this one going to be?
And do you know what this is, or what the output from this sign will be?
oh, you're looking at about, what is that?
Because what's
Oh,
not in front of us is anything to depart from this.
It's approximately about 500 watt.
500.
You know, it's like just like it's just like 1/5 of the neon used
1/5 of the output.
of the neon.
As far as the
power.
electric,
Electrical
we're looking at
power, that's power.
the
That's
brightness.
not out- Yeah, that's not output.
Brightness,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, the brightness.
Yeah, it's output, not power,
Oh,
because there's requirements around output in town, and that's what we need to understand, what this is gonna put out.
I think
We didn't get that info.
All right, well, we can always make a
I think we
motion
can
if we were
assume,
to
yeah.
approve to not
I mean,
exceed.
yeah, right,
I mean, we're more than
exactly.
happy to.
Yeah,
When
you'll
we
have
do
to
that,
work
what
with,
do we have a number of
Yeah.
4,000, what was it, Calvin?
It's 200 nits.
yeah, it's 200
nits.
nits. It's very clear in here.
It's Kelvins.
Probably go through those tonight at the.
There's no watts or anything anymore, lumens.
I think we could be comfortable setting that as a bar and letting
Then we
him.
can put it, Mark in charge of making sure.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, Mark's looking that up. I will read the letters.
Sorry, am I looking something up?
Oh, I thought that's what
No,
Colleen
I thought we
said.
said 2,000 nits.
Yeah, well,
200
it's
nits.
clear.
200 nits.
200.
That's the bylaw, 200 nits.
So if we decide to go ahead with it, we'll just
Go
limit it that
ahead.
it cannot exceed 200 nits.
Yeah, not 2,000,
Whatever a
200.
nit is.
It's 2,000.
2,000 in the day, 200 at night.
Right, exactly.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. And we are now the sign advisory committee.
Well, yeah, so now, exactly.
They're gonna double our pay for that.
So fire prevention has no concerns regarding 32 Alpine. Center Water has no concerns regarding 32 Alpine. The building department has no concerns regarding 32 Alpine. Community development has a note. Sign should be no larger than the existing roof sign, which I think we've accomplished. Engineering has no concerns, 32 Alpine. The Board of Health has no concerns on 32 Alpine. And that is the extent of the letters for 32 Alpine.
Are you reusing the existing iron frame?
Yeah, because the existing is still in a good condition.
So you're just gonna mount this right to the.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought this first group of pictures was trying to show me how bad the existing
No.
frame actually was.
How it's connected.
Showing you how good it is.
It's showing you how it's connected.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to close.
Have a second from
Have you
Steve?
gone around? Yeah, we already did.
Yeah, we did ask
You
him,
already
are
did, yeah.
there any concerns?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Steve. I personally think it's a landmark, and I have no concerns.
We have to vote first.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
We'll close,
Yeah.
yeah.
Seems to me to be a good deal.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the sign application as presented with the proviso that it meets all the output requirements that are currently, that we're not actually reviewing that here. We're only reviewing that it's the same sign, size, shape, color, et cetera. That's what we're approving.
It's
So
lit.
any other variance from that isn't in front of us today, so it needs to comply with everything within the
Yes.
signage bylaws, okay?
Yeah.
And not to exceed the 200 nits.
Yeah, 2,000
That
and
should
200,
be
yeah.
encompassed,
But
yeah.
they need to comply with 195-25-1, period.
I'll second that.
Second by Nancy.
She's
All in
signed it.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One time.
Unanimous?
So later it gets.
Thank you very much.
She's so proud of herself.
Because you're
I did.
No
I'm
soup for
proud of you
you.
too.
A little worried here. Okay, halfway there.
Is that it? I'm going home.
What do we got next?
Our next hearing is Michael Batson, 42 Woodbine Street.
It was continued from
Between
last
this
because of
stupid
the
computer.
advertising, just to remind the board.
Did we read it in?
We did read your letters, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything was right.
Which one are we on? Michael Batson?
Yep, 42 Woodbine Street. It turns to the back page as well. It's
Ooh,
8405 and 8404.
Which one are we on?
It is 42 Woodbine, which
Okay,
is
that's what I thought. Yeah, that's above that.
8459 is the survey,
8459 is the one I was
Yep,
looking
and
at.
8402 is the application.
and 8402.
Oh, there's more.
is the survey different? I'm sorry. Oh, there it is.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, how are you?
Good. If we could get your name and address for the record?
My name is Michael Batson at 42 Woodbine Street.
And if you'd like to give us a little overview of what you'd like to do this evening.
What I'm looking to do is put a addition onto my existing house. It is going to be to the right side. It is going to be 33 and a half feet by 27. Crawl space. It's going to be a family room, bathroom, and a mudroom.
Okay. Application. Just having a little trouble finding the plan, though. I
Yep.
apologize.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to
It's up on the
refresh the
board.
board's memory on this one?
Certainly, sir. That'd
Love
be
that.
wonderful.
Love that.
Everything was in order, it was just the fact that the legal notice was written up for a smaller addition, because that was the original paperwork I seen.
Right.
And then he came in with a larger addition, so it was just a matter of house cleaning, so to speak.
We just re-advertised and noticed it properly.
Okay, so we now have a setback of 23.7 off the side. And what is the setback off the
Yeah, but the new
Woodbine
addition.
Street? Is
The new
that,
addition, 69, yeah. 30 and 69, so it's way off. It's fine.
so you're coming
This
of
is
the
existing.
Okay.
That's the existing house, yeah.
Yes.
This is the addition.
That's the addition.
Yep.
So he's pre-existing non-conforming, very off to the side on his property.
So it's just about the 30% max square footage.
Yes.
Exceeding that.
Right, that's really
What's
the
the
issue.
current square footage?
1,200 and change. 1220.
And what are you gonna have when you're complete? What do you have, 33 by 27?
33 and a half.
I was gonna say, wait a minute,
We got a
let's
machinist.
downsize this.
We got a machinist anyway, so.
My wife was way off.
Details matter.
So it's like 1,200 before?
Like 75%.
900 now, so,
75%. 74.13.
and the required is 30, so that's really not a large discrepancy. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to either speak for or against this application at this time? Seeing none, I'll read the letters into the file.
Oh, we already did that, so you don't
So
have to.
they're in from
Yep.
last time.
We did that for his benefit.
I think that was a good idea. Okay, then I guess I'd accept a motion to close the public hearing, and we'll take this up right now.
Boom.
Motion to close.
Second that, please.
Second by Charlie.
It's yours.
You all set?
Come on, Charlie, move us along.
I just want to get that away. All in favor?
Closing, yep.
Motion passes. So, what do we think?
This is in
I think with the
Charlie's way
shape of the
house.
lot, where his house is now, that's the only logical place to put it. Therefore, I'd move to grant the special permit under 195, 8E, subsection 2, with all the letters read into record and with the plan as shown.
Second.
Second by Steve. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I'm all set?
Yep.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
evening.
This
You
is,
too.
this is, yeah, you need to take that home.
You know my wall.
No, exactly. Put that for your daughter. Not that in history. My mom.
Page 2. We are looking for, was this continued with, was he
Yeah.
not
This was, it
available
was a
at that point?
no-show.
Our next hearing is Basil Kieran Astasis, 7 and 9 Wilson Street.
I'm here on behalf of him.
And if I could have your name and address for the record, sir.
George Silvar, 26 Mountain View Drive, Drake, Mass.
Okay. 7 and 9 Wilson Street is seeking a special permit under 195-8E subsection 2 to construct a new two-story addition to the existing non-conforming structure, lot area, lot frontage, use that will increase over the allowable 10% gross square footage. Tell us a little about what you have planned,
So
sir.
he's looking to add to the rear home here, to add a family room on the lower level and a bedroom on the second level to bring his grandchild from Greece to go to school in the United States.
Okay.
So he's removing the shed in the garden and adding a 20 by 25?
Yes, correct.
Really shouldn't be here. God, I wish I could. I hate this.
On the bottom left, it says shed to be raised, and then it says that there'll be a shed remaining. Is that whole shaded area an actual shed at the moment?
That's going to be removed.
But is it a shed at the moment?
Yes, I believe so.
And is the garage already existing?
Yes, it is.
I have a question about the application. Why does it say, lot area, lot frontage, and use? Are you changing the use of the building?
No, we're not changing the use. It's residential now.
Right, that's what I
He
thought.
lives there in the home.
So-
It's commercial up front.
It
There's
is a-
two separate
it is a
buildings
dual
on the
use.
property.
Oh, okay.
Is
Yeah,
a hair
this-
salon up front?
Oh, okay,
Commercial,
okay.
this building here is residential.
That's why it says use. Okay,
Right, right.
okay.
James C. Management.
It's currently being used as both.
So is this new structure gonna be 2 stories itself, or is it just being attached to a
It's,
2-story?
the existing structure is currently 2 stories.
And is he only putting in 1 level?
He's adding to the back 2 stories.
Okay. Is it gonna have the same roof line?
Yes, correct.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to read the letters. 5 to 7 Wilson Street. This office, this is the fire prevention. Actually, there's probably a letter with that as well, right?
He's gave me a whole bunch that he just checked off, no concerns. So if it says no, he didn't write a lot of letters this time, fire department.
Right, he's got one for this one, though.
Oh, excuse me.
Dear members of the board, the office has reviewed the proposal for an addition at 5 to 7 Wilson Street, finds the following. The entire building, existing and new construction, shall be equipped with life safety systems as required by 780 CMR 51, standard for new construction. The home shall have hardwired, interconnected smoke, carbon monoxide, and heat detectors in all required locations. 3 copies of the plan that clearly show all required life safety systems shall be submitted to this office as part of the building permit plan review process. The applicant has advised that the additional fire protection requirements may be applicable to this project and will be determined during the building plan review process. The office would approve this addition with these conditions. I ask that the board make this letter part of their approval process. Captain Dan. Engineering has sewer permit will be required to modify the sewer service. Building department has no concerns. The address is 7 to 9 Wilson Street.
It's my mistype.
Do we have an issue with the advertising with that?
No.
I don't believe so.
On the agenda, it's 7-9.
And that's copied from the legal ad.
Okay. Building department,
It's my
the address is
dyslexia.
correct. Who is this? Oh, community development. Is this addition for a single-family dwelling or for creation of two-family dwelling?
No, it's single family. There'll only be 3 people. Him and his wife currently live in the home, and they're bringing 1 grandchild from Greece. So it'll still be a single family.
Okay.
They're just adding 2 rooms to right now, it's a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen with like a small little area. They want to bump the back out so they can make a family room and another bedroom upstairs.
Okay. The Board of Health has no concerns, and the police have no concerns. Center Water also has no concerns. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to this application?
Hi, my name is William Harvey. I own the property that directly abuts the applicant. I own 15 Wilson Street, and I just wanted to let the board know that I've owned that building since 2003, and the applicants have been very, very nice people. They've always kept up their property, and I'm in full support of their application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no further comment, I'll
Motion to close.
accept the motion to close the public hearing by Mark, second. By Steve. I think we can take this up.
I think we just need to first officially close it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Right,
We're gonna train you up.
I know, you gotta get me schooled up here.
How do you guys make it?
He's psychic.
Do we have stick plans on this one? No, never mind, right there.
Any thoughts on this application?
I'll make a motion to grant the special permit under 195-82 to construct the new 2-story addition to the existing non-conforming structure,
Well said.
as presented.
Have a second?
Second it.
Second by Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck with it.
I vote.
See you guys later. I shall.
I don't stay.
Okay, so
Nice to meet you.
Hey, it was nice to meet you. Yeah.
Take care.
See you around.
Brian.
I'm gonna just step into the men's room for a minute.
Brian, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, okay? Is that okay?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So we're doing just the one.
I don't blame you.
Bust that down right down or nothing.
Just say, yeah.
I mean, technically, he has the
Give me the
powers
first
to
one
arrest,
for the
right?
first injection.
I was in what?
No, you know, he's just kind of being unruly. Yeah, we heard his testimony, so, you know.
That's all you can ask for.
You can burst through the door to throw him out.
That was
That would have been good. You should have come in with the hook.
Yep.
Little ears on it.
That would be funny. I'm getting this up if it kills me, yeah.
I feel like I've been sitting all day long. Yeah, how are we gonna do 15 different pages?
Yeah, there was just something off with that.
Say it again.
Distributing it to others.
You got to be special over the weekend.
That's
Oh my
so much
God,
better.
that's so much better.
You never know in this room whether you're gonna be hanging meat or you're gonna sweat.
Because I remember sitting under us like
Is Mark stepped away and,
Mark is not here. There's no zoning with 40Bs. So
okay, so he's gone.
yes,
So we're ready to start.
I think we're good.
And he recused.
Yep.
Oh, let me make a
This
note
is
of
all-
that. Charlie's gone.
By the way, this is for the
He left at
recused
8:30.
file.
Thank you.
1:15.
The 5-minute break.
Yeah, Mr. Harvey, I think we're ready.
Thank you, board members. My name is Attorney William Harvey. I was here on September 28th, 2017, relative to the proposal for an application for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Chapter 40B, relative to the Edward Bell Estates located at 73 Dalton Road. From my memory, we left off that there would be, the department letters would be right on record. We didn't have those in September. And just asking if those letters could be read into the record.
They might be buried. Lost his stuff.
73
So where did we leave off?
I was lost as to where we left off with this one. I was just a little lost as to where we left off with this one.
Yeah, okay.
I think the engineering was the only one new, and I did have the fire department one.
Do you have any letters in that signed?
I had engineering and fire department. I can go print all of this. I'm gonna step away.
No, this came out in August, and they said they didn't have the letters in September.
I have a single letter, which I will read in. We have a letter from the Engineering Department, Gary Persichetti, to the Chelmsford Board of Appeals, from Christina Papadopoulos. Gary is the director. 73 Dalton Road Lip Housing Project. Dear board members, the office reviewed the initial submittal and conceptual plan for the above referenced project. Based on our review, we have the following comments. A full site plan and stormwater review will occur when the complete site package is submitted. It is recommended the applicant follow the best management practices described in the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook and implement low-impact development techniques if possible. Sanitary sewer is assumed to flow to Dalton Road. Applicable sewer fees and permits will apply. Reuse of the existing curb cuts into North Road and Dalton Road is recommended as they are in close proximity to the signalized intersection. Potential snow storage on the site appears limited. If no snow is to be removed from the site, it shall be disposed of in accordance with all local, state, and federal guidelines. The dumpster location needs to be modified. Alternatively, barrels can be used. Have you had a chance to look at this, Mr. Harvey?
I have. That was the
And,
one letter that I did
I
receive.
don't know if you have a response for the letter.
My response to the letter would be that with regards to the trash removal, I know that there was recently a new bylaw that was passed where private owners of apartments are now responsible for their trash. So that will be removed by a private company. There'll be barrels there. There won't be a dumpster. So
Okay.
it'll be private removal. And with regards to the snow removal, there's plenty of room on the site to remove it.
I did
To
have a letter
store it,
from.
or,
To store it.
okay. Yeah,
Only
but,
difference
but it
was the
hasn't been
fire
shown
hydrant
yet?
was
Is that what she's
removed.
saying on the plan?
I would assume so.
I think that's what she said. It doesn't show a location because she says it looks limited, right?
It says potential snow storage on the site appears limited.
Yeah.
If snow is to be removed from the site, it shall be disposed of in accordance with all local, state, and federal guidelines.
I'll follow all the recommendations.
Are you planning on removing the snow, or do you
Yes.
have is it on the plan?
If I need to remove the
For
snow,
snow storage?
it'll be removed.
Is it located on the plan where you're gonna store it until you remove it?
No, it's
I
not.
think that's probably what should happen. It
I'll
should
show
be
that on
added
the plan, yeah. I've never had any problems with removal of snow. There's plenty of acreage on the property.
Right, it's just gonna be another building on the property, too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just where it's gonna be stored, that's all.
Yes, sir.
What else do you have? Water, drainage?
Yeah, they would like a full site plan of the stormwater review will occur when the complete site package is submitted. Do you know when that would be?
It was my understanding that the stormwater, the engineering plans were completed relative to the stormwater.
Do you feel you've submitted a complete site plan to the engineering?
I felt I did, yes.
If I may,
What's missing?
what we typically do for a boilerplate 40B conditions is we have a boilerplate condition that says that full-blown site plans, engineering, grading, drainage are submitted. So the applicant may be accurate that they are submitted and that they are full, but we have a boilerplate condition that requires fully detailed plans. Normally, the 40Bs aren't fully detailed. This is a pretty, this is a
they're
pretty
complete.
minor civil
we'll
engineering
require
type
a
project.
full-
Yeah, so the.
Full
so
site
the-
plan and stormwater
Yeah,
review
so the
is
project
required.
engineer who has done the civil plans to date will work with the town engineer to update those plans accordingly to whatever detail is required.
Okay. And do you know if you plan to use the Dalton Road access for the sewer?
Yes.
I think at the last meeting, there was some discussion about whether an additional parking space or two may be needed.
He's required 9 and you have 7, that's correct?
That's correct. And what I would suggest is, the reason why the required spaces were increased is because 2 of the units were increased from 1 to 2-bedroom dwellings. And what I'd suggested is to take in consideration that those 2 dwellings will be rented to the Chelmsford Housing Authority, more or less monitored by the Housing Authority, to the as the 40B units. And what I would suggest is more than likely that an individual that will be residing there will be more likely a single parent with a child. So I don't believe that there'd be more than 2 vehicles there. So I take that in consideration. Prior, there was a proposal to have 5 one-bedroom units. There is a specific need in the town. Town has a substantial number of one-bedroom units, and the town is desperately in need of more, especially 3 bedrooms, but also 2 bedrooms. The plans are modified to that. In addition, there is additional space where there won't be any pavement taken up at the location at 71 Dalton Road, 71 North Road, which is the direct abutter to this property. So if there is any overflow of any vehicles, there's parking there also.
Is the driveway still gonna be accessible from North Road and Dalton Road?
Yes.
They'll be together?
Is North Road going, that's private property, right?
North Road is actually I own the property also.
Okay. But then you're suggesting that the people from Dalton Road would be allowed to park on North Road
Yes,
property?
if that's the case.
I'm just saying, well, what if you decide to sell the other property?
I have no intentions whatsoever of selling that property or any of my properties that I own.
Doesn't really help us.
So,
So we have now two bedrooms and 3 one-bedrooms.
correct.
And we have a total of 7 spots, including 1 handicapped, is that correct?
Correct.
1 handicapped. 3 people in the one. I mean, very likely you could have 2 people living in the 1 bedrooms. There'd be nothing to prohibit that, is that correct?
No, it would prohibit 7 people living in a 1-bedroom. But the fact of the matter is, it's true.
True.
But the fact of the matter is first and foremost, you have to look at the person that's going to be doing the development and their history and whether or not they keep up their properties and whether or not they have good tenants. And I think that I have a great track record in town relative to that. I've never had any issues with parking at any of my properties. I have an 8-family at 34 North Road. That's 8 apartments. And, you know, you'd probably be looking at maybe 10 spaces over there. And with that rationale, if you have 8 apartments, you could have 2 people, which would be quite a few cars. But
I guess that's all just sort of relative, I mean.
it is relative, and that's the reason why we all know that.
So there's no place on this site that you could see an additional spot being installed to
Well, that
make it a little
would,
better? I mean, technically, too, it would be in compliance.
well, we all know now that there will not be a dumpster. If you don't, could I look at that plan?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'd like to too.
Want me to blow it up?
Yeah, could you?
Yeah, can you bounce it a little?
Yeah.
Does that help?
One more time?
Drag it around. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm twitching.
I mean, again, this could be bumped out to add a space. You know, this could be bumped out to add another space. But we did, the reason why the plan is the way it is because we tried to meet most of the zoning requirements that the town has with regards to the setbacks, with regards to different property lines. You know, almost everything is in compliance. I think everything is in compliance relative to the project, other than obviously a multifamily dwelling and the acreage. So there was a lot of detail
Parking too, right?
on the project, just to comply with the town zoning, even though with regards to the 40B, it's allowed to have the exemptions.
I think I'd like
So-
to see some alternatives where we have 1 or 2 spots. I'm not so sure 1 wouldn't be helpful. I mean, you have, Again, and I understand that, you know, if you're renting to a single parent or something, there's one vehicle. But if you're renting to a couple,
And even then you have guests.
right, at any
There's
time
no
someone
parking
comes
on
over.
Dalton to.
I'd really like to have the engineer try to figure out a couple more spots there. Then we don't have to feel like we're stuffing too much into a sack.
Well, if that was the case, then there would be parking that would be potentially on 71 North Road, where the property
Yeah,
line is.
I'm not sure that's gonna meet the needs. It really has to be on the site.
Right.
I don't know if looking at it, and I'm certainly not an engineer, whether a couple spots could go to the front of the building.
If you were to angle the spots a little, would that help?
No, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Have you tried to angle them?
It wouldn't.
Would it be reasonable just to take this back to consider what you might be able to do? To add 1 or 2 spaces there on the property?
Well, I know exactly how to add 3 right now,
Okay.
but I didn't want this to get too confusing for the board, or also with regards to requesting more variances that would be
I don't think you need
requested.
more variance. You can put pavement right up to the edge of property line.
No, I understand
You
that.
don't need a variance to do that.
I just wanted to throw this out to you, because this was my idea later on, if there was any issues with regards to parking. And I'll just show you. Right now, there's currently an existing garage on the property. I have no intention of taking that down, just because if I did take it down, then I'd have to come before this board for a variance because it's too close to the lot line. Originally, what I thought of doing, which I think would look.
The existing garage is on,
It's on
the North
71
Road
North.
front, right.
Right.
So you can take that down without a variance. That's perfectly
it's-
legal.
To replace
To
it.
replace it.
Ah, that's a
That's a
different
story.
sentence.
So what I was going to do is rebuild the garage, not tear it down, but sort of tear it down, you have to rebuild the whole thing. And have a 3-car garage here, okay? This part right here would be sort of a facade of a building that would replicate, you know, a very, very nice type of a barn-looking type of a building, but it would be a fake facade of like a barn door or something. And then this would be a 3-car garage here. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be used for me, but it could be used for these units here. So now they have 3 private garages, yet it's still on my property. That was what I intended to do in the future. Or even, I was gonna do it while building this project.
have parking.
But I didn't wanna throw too much out at the board
It could be okay.
and get my property tied in with this one, and how are we gonna do this? But I own the property, I can easily give an easement to the 73 Dalton Road, which would be owned by an LLC, and it'd be a clear easement to utilize the garage. So you'd have 3 private garage spaces for the tenants. So that right there gives you 3 spaces.
That sounds like a great idea.
I mean, that was my intention right from.
But is there a way you could do 1 or 2 on the 73 Dalton? You know,
I
then
don't
you
thi-
don't have to get into any of this.
No, I understand, but with regards to landscaping and then trying to, you know, when you start getting into the pavement and stuff, I don't want it to look commercial. I want to hide the parking as much as I can. I don't want to put it on the side. Could I put parking on the side? You certainly could. You could probably put maybe 3 spaces right here on the side.
We only
But-
need 2.
Yeah, well,
Or even 2, but I'm just saying.
Could we not take one of those spots and
Even if
and
they
make
were
it
maybe,
like, what do you call it when you park one car behind it?
visitor parking or something.
Couldn't you make 2 of those spots tandem?
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because my tenant across the street brought that up to me once, and she asked me if I could increase the pavement. But at that time, you know, you have a set of plans, and it was a new building, and I didn't want to deviate from the plans, because I could have the pavement ripped up if, you know, if the building inspector said it's not according to the plans. But that's a great point, because I did have a tenant ask me once, for instance, across the street, she had a parking space.
Mhm.
And then she said, you know, could you put some more pavement so I could move my car
Deeper.
to here.
Right.
And then my guest could park right behind me.
I mean, you could double the parking just by an extra couple feet of pavement, right?
If the two bedrooms were allowed two
Well,
spots.
like, if there's 5 or 6 there, right, and you have two, you know, each one gets their own lane.
Right,
it's
they'd be
tandem.
identified for the two-bedroom units, so the car in the front would not be.
Yeah, it,
And
like,
if it didn't have a second
that gets
car, it
in
wouldn't be a problem because you wouldn't need the spot.
yeah, we
But-
can't, I mean, that's beyond us, but.
What my intention is, and it's a 100% intention to do this, even, you know, even if the board voted with regards to the plan existing as it is, approve it, that's not gonna change my plan with regards to my garage. Because I think that would be, you know, very, very strong, you know, to get somebody to rent those apartments if they had their own private garage. So I'd have 3 private garages for the tenants over there. It wouldn't be for my use at all.
Right, but that's
But in the
not part
meantime-
of this application, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be,
Well,
because it's a separate piece of land.
no,
Yeah.
I get that, but
Yeah.
wouldn't you, by granting the easement, I mean, we don't have purview over that.
Oh, I
then.
understand that.
So what we can only deal with is what's in front of us
Right.
right now.
I just didn't want,
That's what we're trying to get to.
I understand that. I just didn't want to, you know, change the whole plans all over again and make,
Yeah, I don't think we
Just a couple
can.
more spots, though. I don't
Yeah.
think that's gonna be too
I don't
big.
either.
Maybe the engineer can look at it and find a couple spots. I'd really like to see.
Right.
It's a tough spot anyways, and you can't park on Dalton Road, I don't believe.
No,
You
no.
can't park on North Road. I think we really ought to do our best to comply with what the town recommends for spaces.
Right, and just see if we can get 2 and not including, you can do anything you want with your
It's not like
garage
there's
later
really
on.
any other option.
oh,
I
that's
mean,
fine. If I did show a plan, would you be amenable to having me showing 3 spaces here?
I think as long as it was done with an easement,
Right, it could be a condition of the decision that such a easement would be granted, and those would be shown on the plan as.
yeah,
those
I mean,
spaces.
we're just looking to be able to do this so that, you know, it isn't a problem. People are parking on North or Dalton Road, which.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a difficult road to park on, I'm sure you realize.
I mean,
Okay.
even with the 3 covered spots, like if you have a covered spot, but yet you still get, you know, visitor parking, that's still a.
Right, you still get
Awesome.
Yeah,
credit for the
and
parking.
would there be conditions on the covered parking? More cost? Who would get them? How would
I
that work?
think you'd end up renting them.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering.
If you want to have a covered spot, you would pay for it.
Right, so
They do that in all the other condos.
how would that get apportioned out to,
Well, that's a good point.
yeah, I just don't
Yeah,
know what you're
yeah.
thinking, so,
Well, it just adds 3 more spaces to 3 potential
no, I
renters.
get
How
that,
big
but
of a
typically,
structure
anything
is
that's
it?
covered like that, you're gonna have an additional charge for that, so how is that gonna work with regard to the
Application and the
application
pricing.
of the 40B?
Well,
There
I
would,
guess-
there wouldn't be an
I guess they
additional.
would have to.
Well,
There
because
wouldn't
if,
be an
well,
additional.
the only issue would be that if you have 2 affordable and 3 non-affordable, and you give the garages to the non-affordable,
Right.
that's an issue.
That is an issue,
But
yeah.
as long as, if it's a lottery system or whatever, if it's random as it comes, that would be,
Right,
that
and
would be
that comes
different.
back to the conditions, right.
But
What are
if,
the
if it's
conditions?
that you have 5 and 3 are market, and you have 3 covered spaces,
Because we're talking about property that wasn't in the original LIP application, we probably would have to review that idea with Mass Housing. I don't know the answer right off the bat, but that's something that we can certainly review, how that affects things. If an easement is granted, that's question number 1. And then question number 2, if there's a cost to the upkeep or an additional cost to have the garage, how is that apportioned to affordable units compared to the market value unit? So that's also another question that we should address as well.
Approach Mass.
So in order to avoid, again,
That.
exactly, in
you
order
go
to
back to
avoid
the-
that, that's the reason why
Right.
I never brought it up.
Right,
So,
and that's why we say, can you just look at the existing
Right.
property and see if you can find a couple of
So-
spaces there?
if I could get 2 spaces here, would that be sufficient?
It's on the
I
property,
think that's
yeah.
our goal, is to get 2 more spots on the
Yeah, I just don't
property.
want to put a space and it's not a good spot. I just want to get some feedback on what you think would be a good spot.
And, you know, you could certainly make it visitor parking, so it wouldn't be used very often, and have, you know, your tenants
sign,
live there.
right.
So then, you know, you're saying you don't want it to look commercial and busy,
Right.
you know. those spots would be only utilized if there's a guest. And
That
would,
makes a lot of sense, okay.
Yeah.
that would make it a little less, I think, busy on that corner.
Or if these single unit ones have 2 cars, you know?
I still
Right,
like
if
the
that
idea of
extended to the
tandem
back,
in
which
addition, though.
doesn't look like that's a
I mean,
bit
we
of a
can't
problem
require
either.
it, but I like
His
the idea.
drainage is right in the front there, though. So that's kind of a big pit.
Okay.
So what I will do is,
It just
I'll
gets-
modify the plan in order to be in compliance with
It's a good idea.
the current zoning.
I like it.
Yeah, well,
So I will try and get 9 spaces, and obviously,
Yeah, if there was street parking, I really wouldn't consider it any issue, but this, knowing the area, it's really difficult for Dalton or North Road to accept a car to be
Exactly,
parked there.
and that's the reason for
Sure.
this, because there's
And if
no,
you do have
there's no
families and stuff,
on-street
you want
parking.
kids
You
to be
cannot
safe
do
getting
There's
in
no
and out of
on-street
cars
parking
and
there,
such.
so.
okay, so I will modify it
Okay.
for the next meeting.
So do we need a motion to continue, or?
Is there any other issues
Any
that I could address?
we haven't addressed? I don't know of any.
Do we need to go to the audience, or?
Yeah, we're waiting on
We can
letters.
certainly open it up to response from the audience. And we're just with the one letter. Is anyone in the audience who'd like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application?
Good thing we went to the audience.
Sir.
Hey, thanks. Must be over.
I'm Steve DePoint, 79 Dalton Road. I'm 2 doors down going towards the Westland School from this property. I'm at the bottom of a hill, and I think last month I talked about the water issue. I went to engineering. You said that's an engineering thing. I said in 1980 when I extended onto my house, I needed a retention hole for the water. At that time, it took care of it, and at the last storm we just had, it took care of it, no problem. There was no puddling or anything. Now, Mr. Harvey said that the house he's going to be putting up is going to be exactly like engineered, just like the one across the street at 75 North Road. Well, 9 o'clock Monday morning, when the storm subsided, I took a picture of the back of the house. I'll show it to you. And if it's the same thing, this is after the runoff. This is after the runoff. This is after it got into my yard. This is across the street. This is the, not a retention hole. What he has is, I went to engineering, and he's gonna have bunkers underneath the ground to absorb the water. To absorb the water and take care of any kind of rain there is. So now we've got a pond for a while. Didn't take care of it. If it's gonna be the same thing, then I got more problems. I got double problems. Not this house, I got that house too. I'm at the bottom of the hill. The storm drain that collects the water from Dalton Road, goes down past my house and it tries to go up the hill. Storm drains past my house. It's coming into my driveway. It's undermined my driveway. Now I got frost heaves. It's taken all the sand. That's the only problem I have. When I went to engineering, you told me last time about the water of the new house. That's engineering. I went to engineering, I talked to the young lady, I forget her name.
Christina.
And you gave me a set of plans. You say, hey, take these plans and take them. So I went to her, and I showed her the plans. She said, oh, those are old plans. I'm waiting for the revised plans. And she explained to me how the water system works. But what didn't show on the plans was the roof. The roof water showed the parking lot water, but didn't show the roof water, where that was gonna go. My only concern, my house. Thank you.
Are you, Mr. Harvey, aware of the revised plans that Ms. Papadopoulos is waiting on?
No, I haven't received any letters with regards
She's
to.
referring to final plans,
Yeah,
which is
that's,
what's in her letter. So as far as the town engineer is concerned, I don't know the specifics, but she does not believe that what is presented are final plans. Very often with 40B, what is presented to the board is not fully detailed. I don't know if this particular project is fully detailed or not.
And to clarify for this gentleman, if the plans are presented, the town approves them or disapproves them until they meet the requirements of stormwater
What we
management.
typically do is have a condition that says final, fully engineered plans will be submitted prior to a building permit. So the,
Approved by
so
the-
as we're discussing tonight, the zoning board is not doing a drainage review. The town
Correct.
engineer is not here. It's pretty straightforward. And normally, the zoning board on projects like this doesn't spend a lot of time discussing drainage, and you defer to the town engineer.
Right, I get that. The only concern I have is obviously what we've already seen
So I
here.
think, what you could do, you could condition that the roof runoff is tied into the system or is dry wells.
I think it would have to, based on
It
my
has to.
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah, and that's typically what
Yeah.
Brian Malisi's will do. It may, that detail may not be on this plan, and that may be the level of detail that Christina is looking for.
Christina looks to have everything handled on-site. Nothing should flow off.
No,
Right,
I
that's a
understand that,
requirement, actually. You
but
can't have
that
anything
building
that's-
across the street, it doesn't appear, that's working.
It's also
So-
quite a storm the other day.
Honestly, it may be.
We've had a lot
because-
bigger storms than that. We had a lot of wind, we didn't have that much rain. I mean, so it didn't appear it's working there. So I just want to make sure that we don't,
In
make
fairness,
his
I will say
situation worse.
that may well be working as designed. It is a retention pond, it is made to hold water.
No, I get
And
that,
then it should drain into it. I'm not saying it is working right, but the
Right.
fact that you're seeing water may be just the effect of it being, if it's a retention pond, it's designed to hold that water to a certain point.
Retention. It's supposed to go underground.
No.
To bulkheads, and it's supposed to absorb it. That's how the engineer.
Completely different design.
And that's what it said on his not revised plan.
Completely different design. The area over there is 100% clay. You could not design an infiltration system with clay. So that's what was allowed, was to create sort of a pond area, and then it goes down into some pipes, and it was allowed to be discharged. That's the way it was
This
designed.
one proposes chambers.
This one's completely separate. It's distinct, and in fact, the land over here has absolutely no clay. It's good land.
could be.
So if the applicant's gonna be submitting revised plans.
Yeah.
There may be an opportunity for the engineer to circle back with Christina to see if there's what additional information within
Right.
reason.
That's all we want to make sure, is that obviously we don't take a problem and make it worse, that's all.
Right, right.
It's actually higher, so I don't know what it is, but see, it's 152,
Yeah, what is that,
154.
150? So how could that be a pond?
Right. I don't know what it says. I cannot read
I
it.
can't either.
So I think we can address the engineering issues, but the abutter mentioned the fire department.
Oh, planting?
Do we have a letter from fire department on this?
We do, the only thing that was changed, they're okay with that. Dan handed it to me last time, I might have put it in the wrong folder.
I sent an email
He took out
to the
fire
captain the other
hydrant,
day,
that's the only other thing.
just to make sure if he had the letter. He emailed me back, he said the letter's in.
Yeah.
I brought up a concern about one of the neighbors that, about fire trucks, do they have access to the building? And the captain told me that the fire trucks have to have access to two sides of the building. So in this case, you have access from Dalton, you'd have access from the side driveway, you'd also have access to the rear. So there'd be three means of access for the fire trucks. In addition, there's a brand-new fire hydrant that I installed across the street, where he found that to be sufficient distance, and I wouldn't have to install a new fire hydrant. In addition, the building will be sprinkled.
We can track down those letters for the continuation, that way
Yeah, I think that we should probably have them on file.
if we
had
can't
5
track them
minutes
down,
before we
we'll
did
send
that.
them the new plan.
Okay, so we'll add that to the continuation. I guess the engineering, we're going to basically motion in such a sense that it is approved by the town. The parking, Mr. Harvey is going to look at a reconfiguration of, and we'll have the letters for the next meeting. I think that's probably about as far as we can go this
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else, huh?
I don't think there's anything we missed.
When you're continuing to.
How does the December
We can-
2nd, we can fit that in?
I think so.
Does that work for you, Ms. Harvey, December
Yes.
2nd?
No, it's December 7th.
Seventh, right?
Seventh, not the 2nd.
7th, right.
And
Yeah.
staff will draft a decision, have it ready for the December 7th meeting.
You want follow-up draft order?
So-
Draft order.
I'll draft it. I'll send it to him. That's pretty
I
straightforward.
think we have one in draft form already.
Okay. Part of our
So
service.
Colleen, if you can get the letters,
Yes,
we'll have
I'll
a drafted
even
decision
email them
by
to you.
Mr. Haverty's firm. And Mr. Harvey, if you can put in 2 more spots, I think you'll have
do that.
satisfied the needs of the board. And I have a motion to continue to December 7th.
Motion to continue to December 7th.
Seconded.
Second by Nancy.
With lots of
All in favor?
enthusiasm. Make sure you put that in there.
All in favor, he got it.
Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She wanted to make sure everyone knows she's still awake. She's like, I'm here.
Hanging in there.
Both start throwing things at her.
This one, right?
Two more. No, no,
One more and then.
Where'd the agenda go? Next on the agenda is 61 Carlisle Street, an application for a comprehensive permit. The application for a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law 40B and the Local Initiative Program, LIP, submitted by Thomas Marshall Estates Development, LLC, for a property located at 61 Carlisle Road, map 66, blocks 268, lot 1. The project proposes to construct a new residential building that will contain 5 rental units, of which 2 will be affordable. The site is zoned RB, Single Residence District. Good evening.
Good evening, board members. Again, William Harvey. And again, this is another application for a comprehensive permit for 61 Carlisle Street, submitted by the Thomas Marshall Estates. What I'd like to do is just give you a quick, if you're not familiar with the area, the area is located in East Chelmsford, obviously, 61 Carlisle Street. There's a home currently on the property that was before your board, September 28th, for a conversion for a 2-family that was approved. On the right-hand side of the residential dwelling is an old barn. The barn is 30 feet wide, no, excuse me, 52 feet wide by 60 feet in length. Now, this area is zoned RB by the town. It's zoned single-family. However, I'd like to point out some characteristics relative to this area. Directly across the street from the subject property is the old historic East School. It's now a commercial building. I believe it's a nonprofit agency. And also across the street is now the rejuvenated public park. In addition, if you go down Thomas Drive, over on the right-hand side, is a business. It's a home business. It's a daycare. You go further down to this large structure. This large structure right now it operates an HVAC company. Again, that's only single family. And again, if you go down the street even further, you'll have Christopher's Towing. And then there's also a building over here, a single-family dwelling with a large commercial structure in the back. In addition, if you go further down the street on Carlisle Street, there are historic homes that can feed into 2 families. I believe that there's one house there. I don't know the exact address, but it's a house that was converted into 2 single-family dwellings. So that's just the area in question where this proposal will be. Now, again, I provided the board with some exhibits for you to review. I don't expect a decision tonight, so by the time the next hearing, just have an opportunity if we could review all the exhibits. I specifically, for exhibits, I have the application for the comprehensive permit. And again, a letter from the Department of Housing and Community Development, the project eligibility letter that was dated August 9th, 2017. With regards to this application, I just want to stress to the board that this is a LIP application. It's a local initiative program whereby I first requested approval from all the town departments before requesting approval from the Department of Housing and Community Development. So I did first reach out to the town, most of all the departments that would be involved in this. The first letter of support was from the Chelmsford Housing Authority that was dated January 4th, 2017. The next board that I went to was the Chelmsford Housing Advisory Board. They submitted a letter in support of this project dated February 14th, 2017, that it did follow the housing production plan. In addition, I did go before the Historic Commission relative to the barn. We had significant talks about the barn, in addition to the house in and of itself that's to the left of the barn. And the Chelmsford Historic Commission is in support of this project. In addition, this project was before the Board of Selectmen. Board of Selectmen voted unanimously on May 23rd, 2017 to support the project. All the letters of support are within the application. They are at tab 3. In addition, I have information about the property, have the assessor's property information card for 61 Carlisle Street. There has been a preliminary site development plans that are in the package. There does need to be a further follow-up with regards to engineering on those plans, just like 73 Dalton Road. So I'll make sure that I have more of a comprehensive package for this board as well as engineering. In addition, exhibit number 6, which I think is very important for this board as well as the neighbors. And I did send out a letter to the neighbors, the abutting neighbors, quite a while ago with regards to the project, with regards to what I propose to put there. And that's exhibit 6. And I think that what's very important about this is we do have the architectural drawings, but we also have a property in Chelmsford which will be the exact duplicate that will be put on 61 Carlisle Street. So the exact same building, the exact same design, the size, the number of units is going to replicate 75 North Road. This was in a design that I had before it was built, which was the old, I preserved the historic Simeon Spalding house, and I built sort of a historic structure across the street which consisted of 5 units. The exact picture that's there now is in your package. So this is what I presented. I believe that I followed it to the best I could, putting up signs, the landscaping, to make it look like it's a historic part of Chelmsford. And a majority of the feedback that I have is people think that I renovated an old barn, that it was an old structure at one time, which wasn't the case. It's a completely brand-new building. And it allowed me at the same time to have the financing to renovate the historic Simeon Spalding house, which I attempted to maintain the exterior structure without any modifications from the original structure. So that's the building at 75 North Road. That's the exact same concept. Nothing has changed. That will be placed where the existing barn is at 61 Carlisle Street. And in fact, the size of the footprint of the new dwelling will be reduced, reduce the barn size by 1,320 square feet. So the current barn that's on the site is 52 feet wide by 60 feet in length, which is 3,120 square feet of a footprint. The new dwelling will be 30 by 60, that's 1,800 square feet. So it's a reduction in the size of the foundation by 1,320 square feet. Now, with regards to the project and the site, the Thomas Marshall Estates development proposes to replace the existing barn on the property known as 61 Carlisle Street and construct an architecturally appropriate residential building, which I just discussed. The newly constructed dwelling will contain 2 affordable rental units and 3 one-bedroom market rate units, and all 5 of those units will be counted towards the town's subsidized housing inventory. eligible units as determined by the Department of Housing and Community Development. The project will be known as the Thomas Marshall Estates. The developer is requesting the Board of Appeals to issue a comprehensive permit pursuant to Chapter 40B of the Mass General Laws. And once again, as I stated before, this project has been supported by all the relevant town boards. While the Thomas Marshall Estates is certainly consistent with the general recommendations of the Housing Production Plan, it has a number of much more specific attributes which makes it attractive and will differentiate it from other proposals under 40B. Specifically, at the time that this was submitted, we were reviewing the 2011 Housing Production Plan. At that time, Section 5.313 recommended that redevelopment of underutilized properties, and Section 5.46 encourages local initiative applications that are consistent with the Housing Production Plan. So this is a site where that it's obviously it's an underutilized area. There hasn't been major improvements in the area. This would be a significant improvement to the East Chelmsford area, as well as on the Carlisle Street, which would blend in with the historic Thomas Marshall House. I believe with the park across the street that's been recently renovated, it's been utilized now by families. Prior to that, a lot of suspicious behavior going over there. So I believe that by putting up a new structure, it's going to revitalize the area. And it'll be very, very nice, just like what happened at 75 North Road on the corner. In addition, this proposed project is directly across the street from the Lowell Regional Transportation Authority. So if there are tenants that do not have a vehicle, they need public transportation, it's directly across the street. This site was visited by the Department of Housing and Community Development, and part of their process is that they see the site plan, they walk the property. The property was, the person that was there at that time was the chairman, Chairman Wojs, and had a conversation with the director, and she liked the project a lot, especially with the public transportation directly across the street. And in addition, that this is a type of a 40B where it's more of a residential type of a dwelling, that it's not a large apartment building, it's not a large commercial type structure. It's small, it fits well in the neighborhood. And additionally, as you can see from the plan, which we had some issues with 73 Dalton, this plan has sufficient parking for the tenants. There's numerous parking spaces that comply with the current zoning in Chelmsford. With regards to the development team information, I'll obviously be the developer. I've developed numerous properties in town. I'm on site throughout the day with my new construction projects. We'll have a local contractor that will be doing this job. It'll be the same contractor that developed 75 North Road, so he's well familiar with the type of building that will be there, foundation, and such. We'll have the same engineers, 73 Dalton, that was before you. And with regards to any type of marketing and the lottery agent, that will be handled by the Chelmsford Housing Authority. And there is evidence of an agreement that I have with the Chelmsford Housing Authority, as I do with, again, 73 Dalton, where the Housing Authority will be the lottery agent, and I obviously provide them with a fee in order to do that. Now, with regards to the analysis of the zoning and conformity, this was a very, very difficult project because of the land in and of itself. Currently, there's a barn there. The barn doesn't conform with any type of zoning setbacks. The barn is very, very close to the street. We did the best we could is to move the new building over to the left, push it back away from the street, which was it's currently a hazard the way the barn is right now. It's miraculously has never been hit by a car that I know of. But we have the analysis and zoning conformity that's sought, and that's provided in detail with regards to the minimum lot requirements pursuant to the town's zoning. and what will be provided in order to make this work. So the exceptions are well documented with regards to the
Do you have an overlay of
analysis.
where the building is located as opposed to what you have now?
Pardon me?
You have an overlay of that?
Yes.
Can you?
Yeah, it was on here.
I'm trying
It
to.
is, it's right there.
It is on here.
I'm just not seeing it there, okay.
There's the barn.
Oh, that's it there? Okay,
That's the
great.
barn.
Okay.
So we did the best we could to push it off the street, further away from an abutting property. This would be all
Off the
green,
street, yeah.
landscaped, and again, plenty of parking also. And also with regards to any type of,
Just got there.
issues with snow can easily be plowed right back. It's a very large piece of property.
You certainly got enough parking spots this time.
That's not an issue. Overflow for.
So again, this is somewhat similar to the project that I approved before because it's essentially the exact same architectural building other than the outside will look different. So it's a building that I've built before. It's a building it's quite easy to be built. It'll be sprinkled. There'll be obviously the fire suppression system throughout all the units. In addition, I did notice on Carlisle Street completely lacks any type of fire hydrants. Therefore, I will have a fire hydrant on the property. If you drove down Carlisle Street, I don't think you'd find a fire hydrant. I looked, I didn't see one. So there will be a fire hydrant that would be provided for the property. In addition, it would be utilized also, if need be, to any of the abutter properties.
Mr. Chairman, when you have a moment, I think that there's a matter that we should address before we get into the specifics of the plan. This is a 40B application, and in March, this same property applied for a special permit. Under the rules and regulations, if an application for a comprehensive permit is within 12 months of a related application, that is an application that is substantial in construction or modification in the pre-existing use of the land, then the safe harbor can apply up to 12 months before we have to accept this as a comprehensive permit under 40B. So before the board, a decision has to be made whether the special permit that was applied for in August would be considered a substantial application for a modification in the structure or use of the property.
Structure, you said construction?
Construction.
The structure or use of the property.
Structure or use, okay. So there's three proofs.
Right.
And any one of them allows us to,
Right, so we had, so this is up to the, I don't want to put anything on the board to decide, but the application was for a modification from a single-family structure into a two-family structure. And the question is that an application that would be determined is a change that is substantial modification in the property? There's no real guidance on what a change or a modification is. It's up to the board to decide. There's not any case law or anything like that to make that type of determination.
okay. I suppose we should take that up before we go too much farther and decide whether the special permit was significant to construction, structure, or use. And I've got to say, as far as use goes, I think it would be absolutely a change in use that was significant. Went from a one to a two-family.
So if it was a significant,
We would be
Change in
entitled to
use.
safe harbor, and we could just reject the application if we chose to. We could continue. It's a lip application. I think we'd have to take a vote and decide whether that is, whether the use of the building is significant. The structure has not been affected by this.
Yeah,
Was the outside stairs, correct?
No, that was approved well before the application. That was approved. There was, when I applied for the application, that was before you on September 28th. There was nothing during my presentation whatsoever where I had to make any external modifications of the building, where I had to make any external construction of the building. Nothing. The building that was brought before you was, nothing was going to change on the outside whatsoever.
Technically, Mark asked him to
No, I
withdraw.
Nothing.
The stairs
I do
went in,
recall
and
that.
then the application
And then,
came
yeah.
in for a
Right,
special.
so there was, the stairs were put in
That is accurate.
with a building permit
Yep.
prior to the application.
Yep.
So everything was done legally and correct. Now, in order to make it a two-family, was there substantial construction in order to make it as a two-family? In my opinion, there was very little construction whatsoever within even the inside of the dwelling.
Well, that's not the.
Yeah, let me clarify this.
yeah,
I think there's three
As
proofs.
just to the use,
Yeah.
the question is there a modification to the use? That's the way that you read the regulation.
Construction is a
Right, if construction doesn't apply.
Structure
If
is
there was
one.
no modifications made to the structure, then we can cross that out and let's just focus on the use.
Yep.
The question is there a modification to the use?
I would say yes. We
You
went
would
from
think
a-
yes?
It would have to be a substantial modification.
Without those stairs, you wouldn't have a second floor.
Well,
Ma'am, you're gonna have to, we're
have
gonna
to-
open it up to talk, but I think the board is gonna need to decide this prior to going further with the,
So what makes this, with regards to any type of a modification, with regards to the two-family, when I purchased the house, when I did the walkthrough, there was two kitchens already in the house. I didn't want to make this as an issue with going before the building inspector at that time. Just figured it would be easier. And I mentioned it to Frank Ream also, the building, the town assessor. I asked Frank, I said, Frank, could you go through the house for me? I'll show you, it's a two-family. It's obviously, I didn't make any changes whatsoever to the house to put a kitchen in there. The kitchen that's there, you can obviously tell it was put in the 1950s. So the upstairs had its own kitchen, the downstairs had its own kitchen. It had separate entrances the way it was set up. Okay? I contacted the previous homeowner at the time. And at that time, back in the 70s, it was utilized as a two-family. It was always utilized as a two-family. It was pretty close to a 4,000 square foot home. Not only that, is if you go inside the existing barn actually contained a dwelling unit too. Currently, right now, it has a heating system, there's a hot water tank, there's a gas line in there. Obviously, they're not connected. So, is this a substantial change? I don't think it is. I really don't. Just because you have a single family go into a two-family,
I think
About the barn.
I'm actually trying to find the tax bill here. Do you know how it's, I thought I saw it, and it's a little lengthy on the thing here, but do you know how the town is taxing the property?
the town has the property obviously taxed as a single-family dwelling. That was the reason why when I purchased the property, is I asked Frank Ream if he could come in to reassess it.
Basically, it was an illegal two-family were that the case. If they, I mean, you're allowed to have two kitchens in your home.
No, I understand that, but it doesn't necessarily mean it was an illegal two-family. Just, if it was installed in the 70s, it could have had a building permit. It could have had a building plan. I did see a plan that was dated in the 70s with regards to this property.
code 1010, single family, MDL 01. And this is, I'm guessing dated somewhere.
The one I pulled up,
4/13/2016.
the one I pulled up is, has an occupancy of 1. It's on the screen.
I'm not sure the assessor's information is applicable.
I don't either.
The zoning history here is that it went from a one-family to a two-family. The building inspector determined that it needed a special permit to convert to a two-family. So that's the question about use. Going from a 1 to a 2, a substantial modification.
So regardless of how it was used or how it appeared.
Right, on the face, the board approached this as somebody
legal-
with
we
with
wouldn't have
one,
had to grant
now
a
I'm in a
special
special
permit.
permit for 2.
Right.
So that's how the board viewed it.
Right.
Legally, it was a single family, and now is a 2.
Only because
It's approved as a
only
2.
because of our actions.
Right, outside of the normal, we had to grant an appeal.
And was the granting of that appeal
It
the
being
change?
prior to 38, right? He could do this, they could do that on its own.
Yes, he was allowed, he was almost
Right,
by
but I'm saying,
right.
so, the fact that you can do that, that's question, brings up the question to me is whether or not it's substantial. You know, because of the age of the home and the way that they're approaching it.
But I don't think it's a question of they're certainly allowed to do it.
Right.
What that triggers is a 12-month moratorium, if you would,
Correct.
allowing us safe harbor.
Paul, do you
To
want to add?
enact safe harbor. We already have safe harbor.
Yeah.
The big
But this one
guns.
would allow you to act it, which doesn't necessarily. mean
So,
you
Mr.
have
Chairman, Paul Haverty, Blattman, Bobrowski, and Haverty. What you're looking to do right here is make a determination as to whether or not the related application safe harbor is applicable to this project. If it is, you're required to provide a written notification to the applicant within 15 days of opening the hearing. That's all you're looking at doing right now. The decision you're looking to make right now has nothing to do with whether or not you think you want to approve or disapprove this project, whether or not you intend to use the safe harbor to issue a decision at this time. All you want to do is determine whether or not the change from a single family to a two-family is substantial as it's defined under the regulations, which I acknowledge doesn't really give you anything to go with. The regulations were adopted in 2008. There has not been a lot in the way of activity with regard to any 40B activity, really up until somewhere around 2013 or so. So for the first 5 years, you really got nothing with regard to the new regulations. Now there's been a fair amount of activity in the last few years. However, this particular regulation I have never seen applied in a manner that's resulted in an appeal or a decision of any sort. So it's really up to your discretion and really good sense as to whether or not you determine it constitutes a change in use significant enough to trigger this safe harbor.
Are there other questions from the board?
No.
Suggest we put this to a vote and decide whether we feel it is significant. Should that be in the form of a motion?
Ultimately, yes.
Yeah, I guess the motion would be, does the board believe that 760 CMR 56037 as a related application previously submitted in August is a substantial modification of the pre-existing use of land? That would be the motion.
Someone like to make that motion?
Could I just add one comment, please?
Certainly.
That Mr. Corrado brought up?
Fill your numbers.
Is with regards to the application that was before you on September 28th, which is 195-13 conversion of dwelling units. Part of that bylaw specifically states, and that was just one portion that I had to prove before you, is that the exterior design of the structure is not changed from the character of the single family. I think that's significantly important, because if there was any significant change with regards to the character of the house, that would be looked at as a two-family. So if somebody drove by they'd say, boy, that house just changed into a two-family. Obviously, when I came before the board, there was absolutely no changes whatsoever to the exterior of the house. So I think that's what's
I think
significant.
we're past the construction and the structure.
Well,
I think
it's
what your
character.
use.
Yeah. Well, again, with regards to use, I think that directly goes to the conversion too. Is it a significant change of use? I guess it's an interpretation.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I guess we will have a motion.
I would really like to start one, but I can't.
With regard to
Whatever he said.
760 CMR 56.037, we make a motion to,
Consider it a significant change of use.
Yeah, I would, in regards to the numbers that she said, I would make a motion that it's a significant change in use to the structure.
Significant change in use.
The
the
application
property.
in August was a substantial,
Change in use.
And therefore,
yeah,
it-
modification to use. And therefore, yeah, and that's it. I would just stop there, yeah.
substantial,
I've never had so much. help when I
Modification.
Can we read back the motion as Colleen has
I
recorded
think the motion
it?
is substantial.
that's true. So in regard to 760 CMR 56037, the application in August is a substantial modification, is a substantial modification of use.
So a yes vote would say that it is a substantial change in use.
Before the board takes a vote, since council's here, does it need to be any more detailed than that? There need to be findings, facts of findings?
I'm glad you asked that. So I think one of the things, let me explain the way the process works with regard to one of these safe harbor claims. So the board, as I noted, is required to provide written information to the applicant within 15 days of opening the public hearing, including the reasoning behind their determination. I have prepared a letter in the off chance that this board made a determination that it was substantial and that it was going to invoke the safe harbor. I've got a letter ready to be submitted to the applicant. But I do think this board should look at the issue of, what constitutes that substantial modification. I think that's something that should be reviewed by this board. And I think the applicant has sort of hinted at why he believes that it's not. Which would be that looking at the requirements under the special permit, it's really to be issued only if it's really not going to have a significant impact. It's going to retain the characteristic of a single-family house. So I think that the board should be looking at that issue. When you're looking at whether or not this is substantial, you should be looking at the impacts that are associated with what was previously approved. And it's easy to say, well, it went from single to two-family. Okay, but go beyond that. How did that impact anything? Any of the abutting properties, traffic, anything of that nature. I think, the board needs as support for its decision. So from here, once you give notification to the applicant that the safe harbor is being claimed, the applicant has 15 days to file an appeal with the Department of Housing and Community Development. They then have 30 days to issue a decision. And then from there, if they issue a decision that either party is unhappy with, there's an interlocutory appeal that goes to Housing Appeals Committee. So there is a process that is associated with this determination. So this board wants to make sure that it has fully considered the matter and has support for whatever decision it makes.
Can the
Questions?
analysis of impact go beyond physical impact and consider zoning impact, meaning a special permit is required?
Yes, I think that it can, and I think that also cuts both ways, though. In this instance in particular, a special permit was issued. And that special permit made
So
certain
presumably the
findings.
board issued the special permit and determined that it was compliant with
Well-
the zoning provisions.
Correct.
Paul, I have a question. Considering the conversion there's really, if you meet 4 criteria, it's an automatic. So is it truly considered a special permit? or
Well, it is still a
by-
special permit according to the bylaw, but again, that's,
By right
That's
type
the whole-
thing.
those are the,
Well,
and I think that's what Bud was
exactly.
trying to
That's
bring up,
what I was
Mark,
saying,
sorry,
too.
I was trying to bring up earlier was, you know, there are certain criteria that are necessary to be able to apply for this, and they met that criteria. Therefore, is this something that really is substantial, or is it something they really could have claimed at any point in time?
Yeah, so if you meet those four, there is no way to deny for any reason.
We didn't have an option to deny,
No,
in
exactly.
my opinion.
Right.
Exactly.
The board sort of
Well,
considers it a
right.
finding of
Yeah.
fact, rather than a special permit.
You're
even
absolutely
But
though
it's a
is.
special permit
It
under
is.
the
It's
the
not
bylaw.
treated-
The
it's
board,
not-
the
it's
board,
required.
the board has
Even if they meet
discretion
them.
with the issuance
You
of
have to do
any.
it. It's just a
Right.
mechanism for,
It hasn't been exercised in that
Right, with
matter.
the issuance of any special permit, the board has discretion. That discretion cannot be applied in a manner that's arbitrary and capricious.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that was the charge for the board for that particular permit. I do think that is something that the board does need to take into consideration as part of its determination here.
I think that's a really important piece, personally.
Any other questions?
We got the man here, so.
Zoning,
You want to read my book?
Yeah.
What's my book? Just bashing you. First time tonight.
I understand we issued a special permit, and I'm gonna read this for the record, I guess. Conversion of dwelling units, 195-13. Alteration of a single-family dwelling existing at the time of the adoption of this chapter in 1938 for occupancy by not more than 2 families is permitted, in accordance with the Article 3 of this chapter, provided that the lot contains not less than 15,000 square feet, and the exterior design of the structure is not changed from the character of a single-family dwelling, and provided further that at least 600 square feet of living space shall be provided for each resulting dwelling unit. So there was really no denial if the points were met. It wasn't really, in my opinion, a decision we made, but just a,
Execution.
yeah, just
A review to make sure the
So if
criteria.
that is the position that you take, then that leads to the next question as to, you know, if your feeling is that it really isn't a special permit and that you didn't have discretion, then what exactly did they apply for? Right? If that's the case, how is the related application even applicable? Because the only reason we're discussing this is because they filed a special permit application. So if you're saying you didn't have any discretion anyhow and that you had to grant it, then related application shouldn't apply.
If the house was built in 1955,
Yep.
they would need a special permit. There'd be no sets of 4 criteria that they could.
Would they even be able to do it then?
And then they'd
That'd be a
they
use
could only, they could only ask, right?
we can grant any appeal
They could
we choose
apply,
to.
but there was
Well,
not.
no, in fact, the board does not have the authority to grant a use.
Okay,
variance.
then we
Just to,
don't.
just to clarify, the
they
reason
could.
that the conversion requires a special permit is that it's in the use table.
As it's requiring a special permit.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
right.
The way this board has
But so-
exercised that,
But that's my point is, if you want to treat it as, you know, there was no discretion and that you had to grant it, then you're saying it's not actually a special permit. So I think, and if you're saying that, then why are we talking about related application?
Gotcha.
So I think what you really should be doing, it does say it is a special permit. You went through the process, you issued a special permit. You should treat it as a special permit, but then you should look at what the impacts of that are and whether or not there was really, you know, if it really was substantial. And based upon the specific provisions of the bylaw, I think it probably has a presumption that that sort of change isn't substantial as long as you meet those requirements.
Maybe that's the, yeah, that makes sense.
It is deep.
But whatever decision you make, I think you should make it in relation to the special permit that was granted and then what the requirements for that are.
So back to that motion.
Trying to get it right. Might take a minute.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, what I think the board really needs to focus on is whether or not a request for a special permit that complies with those 4 standards contained in the bylaw really constitutes a substantial change in the use. So your discussion really should focus on those 4 standards, and if you comply with them, is the change in the use substantial?
I don't think there's any question the 4 standards were met. I don't think that.
Correct.
that
That
is-
doesn't necessarily mean that it's not substantial, but that's what you should be looking at, is if you meet all those 4 standards and are in fact granted the special permit, does that in fact lead you to a determination that it wasn't substantial, or can it still be substantial even though you meet those 4 standards? That's really what the board needs to determine.
I mean, I feel it's substantial to change from a single family to a 2-family. I understand your point, and does it have an effect? Probably to the neighbors it does.
And to the deed, right? Because before it was.
It would have to be
deeded as a-
recorded in the deed, right? A special permit as well as a variance?
And it was a single-family home prior to, and now it would be deeded out as a 2-family.
Change to the
We need help.
amount of people in the structure,
Impact to school potential.
Parking, the general character of the
Parking.
building.
outside didn't change, but
But the use did
occupancy,
change.
yeah, the occupancy changed, or could change.
We could probably go round and round.
Yeah, it's also something that you just can't do by right, anywhere. It has to be before 1938 to even consider meeting those criteria. So we just can't allow use variances like that.
Right, it's not just any property.
It's a significant
We were the
special
finder of
permit.
fact, but our decision in finding those facts substantially changed the property and the use on the property.
You need to be able to,
Right, I guess we're gonna find out. If someone wants to make a motion and second it, we can have a vote.
Right.
If there's
Still have
more
the same
discussion, I'm
frontage, you guys
welcome
made
to
the
it. I think we're
decision.
sort of circling.
Was a motion made?
Tried and failed.
No, Steve made a motion that it is substantial change of use, and then we wanted to discuss what that was before they voted.
We have a second on that motion?
Well, we need to add to it the reason why. So, I think the motion, can I make a new motion, or would?
Sure.
Is that okay? Are you okay with that?
I have to remove your motion.
Okay, trump my motion.
No,
You want to write?
No, in addition to the sections that were stated above, I think that I'm trying to think how to put it in words, but that there is a substantial change due to the fact that it affects the deed and the potential impact on the school systems, parking in the neighborhood.
Okay, slow down. Deed. School, parking,
The abutters,
um,
potential flow of traffic,
do
Or
you want to
traffic.
say abutters, or do you want to say neighborhood?
neighborhood.
Okay.
I think it's substantial.
Okay, so the numbers, the August special permit is, we consider a substantial modification of use in regard to the deed, effect on schools, parking, and neighborhood character.
Yes.
That sounds like a motion.
Could I speak before the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number one is there's been absolutely no evidence whatsoever that's been presented to the board with regards to deed exchanges. Deed doesn't exchange showing something that's a 2-family. Number one, with regards to the school system, that's completely out of character with regards to this board, even to ask about the school system and whether or not there's even children that are living in the house, whether or not how many children live in the house. With regards to traffic, there's been no traffic study. There's been no showing whatsoever by myself or the engineering department in the town that there's going to be a traffic problem. These are just accusations or just things that you want to put in your decision without any evidentiary backing whatsoever. So just to be adding these things to your decision, to back up a decision without any proof,
But I think we can assume there would be more traffic than less.
you can't assume that if there's nothing before your board with regards to a traffic study. You're assuming that there's going to be children living in the house, which is a great point that you made with regards to any type of an appeal, if you want to start talking about children in the school systems. So, with regards to substantial change in use, that's completely contrary to the application that was filed for the special permit. Completely contrary. You could have a family, a single-family house with 16 kids living there and 2 adults. Now, would that be a significant change of use? Because it's still a single family, but there's a bunch of children living in the house. So I just think the rationale with regards to trying to back up your decision isn't sufficient. And the purposes of 190 with regards to the conversion is completely contrary to why there's a conversion process to begin with. Is the first and primary most important thing with regards to a conversion is the character of the house, the character of the neighborhood. It's the external part of the house. Is this going to substantially change the character of the neighborhood? If the answer is yes, you deny the application, even if the house was built before 1938. A substantial change in the character of the house, or even to the character of the neighborhood if you're going to make it into a two-family. Nothing has changed whatsoever. Nothing. And even at the prior hearing that we had, there was nothing about parking. I didn't have to provide any parking chart, which I did provide. So if there was anything, it would be a better use of the property, a much better use of the property.
Maybe not to the neighbors.
Well, we haven't had any testimony right now with regards to the neighbors that the two-family has affected the property or the character of the neighborhood. The house in and of itself, you can state that, yes, there's legal abutters. Is there a direct abutter that making this into a two-family would significantly change the character of the neighborhood? And the answer is clearly no. It's clearly no. So, with regards to your decision, if you're going to decide to vote against it, that's your decision, but I don't think that you have the backing with regards to the type of actions to make this a significant change by what you've been stating. I mean, I really don't.
So to be clear, what you are making a determination on is whether the previous construction/modification is insubstantial or whether it's substantial with regard to the use.
This is why I asked council if that impact analysis can extend to the zoning itself. Nothing to do with physical impacts, parking, traffic. Whether a special permit is substantial.
Period.
As it pertains to zoning principles. If the town didn't think it was substantial, would it have required a special permit as opposed to a finding by the zoning board, or by right, based upon the 4 standards that the building inspector would make a determination on?
Without going to the board.
So, assuming council says that in and of itself can be considered a modification, then it's not fact-based based upon the actual project. It's based upon whether the town making a special permit required is substantial in and of itself.
And to respond to that, I think that the fact that a special permit is required to do this sort of change is sort of legal argument rather than a factual argument. It's something that the board, if we ever got into a place where we're actually fighting this out at the Housing Appeals Committee, that's something that we can certainly raise as an issue. That in fact, by requiring a special permit to make this change, the town has acknowledged that it is a change substantial enough to require the special permit. With regard to the traffic, all you need to know is that a change from 1 unit to 2 unit will change the projected traffic under the ITE standards for trip generation. is that significant enough, to constitute a substantial rather than an insubstantial change to the use? That's for you to decide. However, I don't think you need to go and get a traffic engineer to tell you that their standard trip generation methodology is going to show the more units you have, the more traffic you have. It's intuitive.
May I withdraw my previous motion? And I'd like to make a new motion, that, the requirement that the board find, a special permit to be the finder of facts, and that in granting a special permit, it is in fact a substantial,
Change of use.
change of use.
Just as an outside person, I would say leave the finding of facts out there, because that's almost saying that that's all you're doing. When you say it's a special permit that's required by the town, you're strengthening it, even though we're saying that out loud. I don't know if you want to say that.
I would also phrase it to say that the change in the use is not insubstantial.
Okay.
That's what the regulation states.
I'm withdrawing and giving up, someone else
It-
try it.
No.
Go for it, Nancy.
It takes a town.
That's really the end of the conversation.
It's the fact that a special permit
feel this is substantial.
Is required.
is why we're saying that it's not insubstantial, because if it was by right, or someone, or we just had to find the finding that there would be a lesser impact potentially
Right.
to our community, and we're saying that the reason they have to come in front of us is
So the
because
August
of
special
the impact is
permit.
not insubstantial.
Like, based on the fact that the town felt it was impactful enough
Council's
to
gonna.
Do you
put
want
in
to
their
draft
bylaws
it?
that it requires a special permit.
Yeah, you want to draft? I'll give you a pen.
Right now?
That's what I've been sitting here with for the whole time.
I thought we had a,
So
Do we still have to make a motion?
Yeah. He didn't withdraw.
basically, Jackie was
yeah,
saying
probably not.
that the special permit applied for in August is not unsubstantial.
Wait for it, won't be there.
No, he doesn't have
This
to.
is really
The fact,
good.
the fact that we have to.
Insubstantial.
Took his ball and went home.
So, council's writing a draft motion, and then we'll
I don't know, maybe he's just.
distribute it to the motion maker,
That was originally Steven, so.
whoever it is at this point.
10:01, good lord.
I'm going.
And just know it will end up in appeals.
Yep.
It absolutely will.
I really don't know what to do.
Steven's a full board member.
Very difficult.
He should probably be the one. Steven, you're the full board member, so you should probably. No, I'm serious.
Now, even, Paul, even just with this, even though they make that finding, does that mean you have to invoke safe harbor?
You,
Even if you, or you
by
wouldn't?
making the finding, you are
letting
invoking
them-
safe harbor, but that does not mean that the board is doing anything with regard to the substantive application.
Okay.
Right, if you recall, on the Mill Road project.
Oh, I was confused then.
If
Okay.
Mark or Brian recall, because no one else was actually on the board at the time. But if you recall, on the Mill Road project,
Yep.
we submitted
Yeah.
a notification to the applicants that we were in a safe harbor.
Mhm.
Applicant got a little bit worried, and we had a whole.
We had a negotiation on size of the units.
Correct, but
Right.
ultimately, we went forward and issued a comprehensive permit, even though we had invoked the safe harbor. The board is not under any obligation to do anything at this time, other than to hear the application in its normal course.
Right.
So I just don't think the applicant heard that. I think he's gone.
Well, he
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, he left.
So he definitely didn't hear it.
It's on him.
It's on the recording.
Yeah.
I tried to make that point, I think, when I first got up.
No, I heard you.
That all you were voting on is whether or not
We could.
to make the determination that safe harbor is applicable.
Right.
Because you are, under the regulations, required to do so in writing within 15 days. If you don't, you lose the right to raise it at a later date.
No, so this, okay, it's part of the process then.
It's not,
So
it's
next-
not in
next
any
month
sense a
or next
denial of
meeting,
the
this will be
project.
on the
It's just,
agenda.
Right.
And then the
Objection
merits
for
of
the
the,
town.
I'll just,
The application of
right.
the project itself is
Right.
then looked at.
I'll just say what I'm struggling with, is I'm struggling with just using the special permit as the means of saying that it is significant. Because what I'm concerned about is if the home was a pre-38, it met the 4 criteria, the special permit feels like a mechanism, just a mechanism to approve it. And what I'm saying is if they met the 4 criteria, does the board have I know we have a right to still say no, but would that ever stand up?
Right.
But we're
That's a
not
good
saying
point.
whether it was substantial, we're saying that we don't find it to be not insubstantial. That the fact that you have to come in
Well,
front of
other
us
stuff
and
has
that
to
we
go
have
away. You just have
to,
to
we
make
have
it
to
match.
I
find
think
the
you just have
fact.
to make a simple statement.
Right.
Yeah,
You have to
just-
make a
It's not
decision.
enough that you can look at the regulation and say, well, I believe that I meet
Well, if
this
it's
and I'm
not
just gonna keep going
insubstantial, then
forward.
that means it's the inverse, right? It's something more than
But the
that.
regulation says not
No,
insubstantial.
no, I understand how we have to write it.
Just the burden of proof at that point, because we're saying you have to prove that it's not substantial.
Right.
With the burden, that wouldn't be our burden, right?
50-50
No,
on
no,
this.
because you're
I'm
finding
really,
it as,
We're finding it to
Pounding in
be,
my head on
and
this.
you,
Not
and you're
insubstantial.
I know how
stating
I
it in a
feel
way
for
that
the
will
home
stand up in a court of law.
You know what I mean?
So-
Right, if
But
this was
at the
my
same
neighbor,
time,
There we
I
go.
just said to him, I said, if there was
Get
an
your reading
empty
glasses
10
on.
home built next to him, they met the whole
You got
criteria,
almost as
what's gonna
bad writing
happen?
as Evan.
I'm left-handed.
Oh, was that the
It's
excuse?
not insubstantial, damn.
And make sure you leave it there, because I gotta type that in too.
Right.
I used to be left-handed.
Yeah.
keep getting beat up.
Went to the nuns with like I did, they used to slap my hand with the rule.
My father went through that too. He does write righty though, but it's chicken scratch.
Are you still right with your right hand?
No, right left.
So,
I never stopped.
Can I-
So motion.
almost.
Excuse me.
This is very difficult. You wanna read it, Izzy? Stephen,
I wanna read it now. I thought we were just gonna hear it.
oh, you read it. I thought
Whoever's
everybody
gonna
did.
make the motion should read it.
Yeah, somebody should read it out loud.
Yeah, she's gonna,
Telepathic.
Yeah.
If I make a motion, can I then vote against it?
Ah, boy.
Is this the record for the longest motion ever?
Maybe.
at least we came out with a motion.
In my life, here it is.
First comes to you, you don't know yet.
In four attempts at a motion? Do you want to read it or should I?
We've had trouble with motions, but not,
Well,
I need the pink pen back too.
I am just torn.
Steve, you gonna read it? Or do you have it memorized?
I'll read it
I think so.
Terrific.
out loud.
That's what I meant in my head.
Exactly.
It was right
Paul.
there.
So, I move that the board find that the special permit granted on September 28th, 2017 involved a change in use from 1 unit to 2 units, and such change of use is not insubstantial. Therefore, the board meets the requirements to invoke the related application's safe harbor pursuant to 760 CMR 56.05, Section 3 and Section 7.
You have a second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll take that back so I get my notes. Thanks.
I think it's best we're gonna do.
Do we know what
Go
the
for it.
threshold is for
All
the
in
motion?
favor?
3-2.
A simple majority?
Yes.
I'll vote in favor.
Oh, we got a 5-0.
Unanimous.
So the board is choosing to invoke the safe harbor.
Yes.
Okay, so the next step the board needs to take is whether or not they want to make a determination now to simply deny the project, or whether or not they want to continue the hearing and move forward, continue to gather information and, you know, try to come to a decision, that can result in the issuance of a permit that the applicant and the board are happy with.
I'll actually make a motion to move forward with this.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Unanimous.
So much quicker than the first one.
At this point, the
So
board
much
should
more
continue to
clear.
a date certain.
I would move, are we doing this in December?
I think we can continue this to
Or January?
January, saying we don't have anybody in front of us at this point to.
Yeah.
Mark made it, you seconded.
And we're gonna have a
And there
very
may be
busy
an
December
appeal
8th as it is,
process that
December 7th.
results from.
I was
No, I
reading
understand.
Jackie and it
So
went
that's
into
fair.
January.
What's the date of continuance?
January
January
2nd?
4th.
January 4th? No.
It's December 7th
How
or January
clogged up
4th.
is that date
Yep.
getting?
January
We have
4th.
three things
compared
on
to-
there now.
Just what we've continued, I only have, I believe, 2 applications that are minor,
It's light, good.
very light.
And Gorham Street.
Okay, so
Gorham Street.
Carlisle is January 4th?
No, Gorham Street's going to December 7th.
Yeah.
Oh, how did I get
That
that?
may
We
keep
have,
going,
we have
but
Gonzalez
you'll
at the
probably won't keep
Tingsboro Road,
He's going to January.
and we have Parker Road on January, and we have Carlisle Street on January.
Parker, and then
Can I have a motion to continue to January 4th, 2018?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All in favor?
There's gonna be you.
Who seconded you?
No,
Mark, I did.
Mark? Okay. And then you just have one letter to read under Consalvo, the last one.
Continue the other person.
We talked about it, but I
Gorham
don't think we
Street?
formally
Yeah,
did
to
it. Did we
formally
already?
continue the last people on the.
Close the meeting.
We need to do a request to, we need to do
I
a
do
request
one more
to continue to
continuation.
December 7th.
Oh, which one?
The Gorham
7
Street.
Gorham
Oh,
Street.
okay, yeah.
So could I have a motion to continue
Motion to
7
continue
Gorham Street, 1
7 Gorham Street
View?
to December 7th.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to close.
Just
meeting?
before we do, we're under a little
Get
bit of
review.
pressure for minutes. Are those,
Oh.
Yes, I have to get, by the next meeting, I will have a bunch done.
Okay,
okay.
I've
And
been
then we
working
need-
on them, I
We have a
just-
limited time to approve them.
okay, so motion to close public hearing?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hold on.
Thank you for all your hard work.
I'd like to go on record as saying I felt bad for Nancy.